Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Backlog Crew, where we pick a game that's on our backlog and go through it together, kind of book club style. Today we're playing Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. It was originally released for the Nintendo GameCube in 2004, developed by Retro Studios, the team that has developed all the Metroid Prime games and some very good Donkey Kong games. Um, like I said, it released for the GameCube, came out on Wii a few years later as part of the trilogy collection. Yeah, have either of you played anything in the Metroid Prime series or just the Metroid series in general?
I'm gonna go first since I feel like mine's gonna be a lot quicker than what Joe's gonna say. So just an assumption here. I apologize if that's wrong. But my familiarity with Metroid Prime or Metroid series is we had the version on the Super Nintendo. I played a little bit as a kid, didn't make it very far, so I don't really count that. But figured I'd mention it. And then same with like Metroid Prime, the first one in the GameCube. We
Hmm.
played through that a little bit, but as a kid, I was like, this game's a little scary for me. uh,
Oh,
and then I think we had Echoes as well. I don't remember if I ever played that one because it was the second one, but yeah. So that's basically my familiarity with it growing up, and then I never played it as an adult. So that's all I got.
Joe,
For me, there are two and a half Metroid games that I have not played out of the entire series.
can I
I have,
guess?
yeah, go for it.
The half is Metroid 2 because you have played Samus Returns, the remake. That's incorrect.
That is incorrect.
It's the half. You just didn't finish a game.
No, the half is I didn't like the game and we don't consider it part of the series.
Oh, Federation Force or
Mhm.
okay, Federation Force, Metroid Prime Hunters, and then I'm gonna assume you haven't beaten Metroid 2.
I have beaten Metroid 2.
Okay, what's the other one then?
Metroid Prime Pinball.
Which one's the bad one that you don't consider part of the series? Because it should be
Federation
pinball.
Force.
It
From what I can tell, Pinball is more fun than Federation Force.
from what you can tell.
But yeah, I have played Metroid Prime 2 specifically before, but it is the one that I've played the least out of the trilogy. I think I played it maybe twice since I was a kid, so playing through it again now, most of it is still pretty fresh outside of like some suit upgrades, a couple bosses. I really don't remember as much as I thought I did going into this.
I gotcha. In terms of Metroid, I discovered Samus, like many Nintendo characters, through Super Smash Bros. Melee. And then didn't really play any Metroid games until my brother came home with a copy of Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance. So I played that. Then I was hanging out with my cousins one time, and their uncle owned like a warehouse. And we were just going through the warehouse, just wandering around, and we found this. It's the game.
Ooh,
Trying to like find a place where you can actually see it. It's Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. I hold it
look
in the
at
center of
that.
the frame. And so I found the physical
Hmm.
copy, and I just kind of looked at it, and I was like, "Can I have this?" And they're like, "Uh, as long as you bring it back, because it's technically our uncle's." And I was like, "Sweet." And then now it's been 20 years, and yeah, I'm not gonna give it back.
Confirmed
Now,
thief.
But
Got it. Yep.
once we
what?
finish the series, you're going to bring it back.
Right. Of
Yeah, as
course.
soon as I finish.
I never finished the game, so why would I return it?
Well, the irony is this isn't even the copy that I'm playing because I bought it on Wii U. Did like a $10 Wii game every week or every month for a year or something like that, and so I
So
just bought the trilogy for $10
you
on the
better
Wii U.
hope you better hope your cousin's uncle is not watching this video, or they're gonna come collect that
I
GameCube game.
guarantee.
Not even using it.
I guarantee they have more things to worry about. But yeah, I just want to show this off. It's really cool. It's very
Hmm.
shiny, if you can't tell.
It's
And I
alright.
open. It's also really heavy. Okay,
Hmm.
boxes aren't this heavy anymore. But it's got the cute little GameCube disc in it,
Hmm.
and it even has
It's
fully colored manual with that's just filled with spoilers. Like I was glancing through it before we started. It just has every power up you get in the game is in this. And then Joe, this is for you.
And here,
It's got an ad for Metroid Prime Hunters
It sure
on the
does.
Nintendo DS.
And a subscription to Nintendo Power.
It says to buy this. Joe, do you have yours?
Yeah.
Oh,
All
we're
right.
so cute.
So,
John,
and
get
here's
your copy
mine.
out.
Yep, right here. It's
Oh.
just yep. There you go.
That cool, the Beehive edition.
The
Yeah,
Beehive
and then it's
edition.
like-
Rare.
Subscribe.
So I actually this is from the collector's edition. So this is the hive all the
Oh.
aliens come from. Yeah,
That's
Oh,
the
that's
war.
cool.
Those are the war boss
I took
nest.
it. Yeah, I took it.
Yeah. Thanks for indulging me. I just wanted to show it off because it's shiny. Joe's yours looks to be in much better shape. I think it's not quite water damage, but mine is like humidity damage from just being in a warehouse in Mississippi.
Mine similarly came from a cousin actually who just I
Did you
borrowed
also
it.
steal it?
I borrowed it and he
Oh,
left it at my house for a really long time and I was like, "Can I just have it?" And he said, "Yeah, I guess. I don't really care."
I was waiting for you to
Nice.
go no, and then he never got it anyway.
That's also how I got my copy of Metroid Fusion. I borrowed it from him and he said, "You can have it."
Well, that's how I came across this game. But similar to John, I was very young and didn't get very far in it. But it wasn't because I was scared. It was just because I was stupid. Because I was old enough to not be scared by it. But John's smarter than me, so I didn't. I think I got to Dark Aether, which we'll talk about in a second. And then I was like, I'm just dying. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what to do now.
The
But yeah.
world burns.
I'm still scared of it.
You're still scared by it, Joe? It's okay. We won't do anything too scary
Okay.
in
Hopefully,
today's discussion.
no jump
but-
scares.
But yeah, I have played all the way through the first game. I'll give kind of a recap of that in a second. The first Metroid Prime game, and I've played about 30 minutes of Metroid Prime 3 because my brother had it when I played it a little bit, but also was not smart enough to figure out what to do. Metroid series overall, Joe, would you consider yourself like a big fan or just like a medium fan? Like, where is it on your personal list?
I'd consider myself a big fan. 2 of the games from the series are in my top 10 list of like favorite games of all time: Super Metroid and Metroid Prime 1.
Really? That's
I've played both of those games a ton. I actually got Metroid Prime 1 at an EB Games for like $8 because I saw it on sale in an ad. And I just went and picked it up and it didn't have the manual or anything. But yeah, that was my first experience with the Metroid series outside of Melee. I got
Right.
Metroid Prime 1, played it a million times, and then just worked my way through the rest of the series as I got older. But yeah, I'd consider myself a pretty big fan.
All right.
Gotcha.
So based on that, who's your favorite Nintendo princess? Is it Samus?
It's actually
Oh, of
Final
course, of course. Spoilers.
Spoilers. We haven't even gotten there yet, Joe. What the heck?
Dang.
my bad. We'll
I
get
didn't know that. John,
Oh,
censor that
All
the
right.
viewers,
I'll
if-
try to remember.
if you feel like it.
Well, no,
Um,
censor it after we beat it to figure out that is the final boss because I don't remember.
Oh yeah.
He's just making stuff
alright.
up.
Yeah.
So this is a sequel. So if you're listening and you're just like, I want to hear what they have to say, but I want to understand the story. The first game, basically, Samus in the original Metroid, Samus defeats space pirates and an enemy called Mother Brain and an enemy called Ridley. And then Metroid Prime 1 happens immediately after that. And she's hunting down some space pirates that escaped. While she's there, she discovers they're mining a material called Phazon, which arrived when a meteor struck this planet called Talon 4. She defeats all the space pirates, but then finds out that there's something called a Metroid Prime protecting the Phazon, and she has to destroy that. She does. Her suit gets all kinds of jacked up and corrupted by Phazon, and then it ends with Samus thinking she's saved the planet, destroyed all the Phazon, and moving on with her life. And then it cuts back to Talon 4, and a blue version of Samus's suit and arm like reaches up through a small puddle of Phazon that was left behind. And that's what we're left with. It might also be important to note that Ridley was not actually dead in that game, and also that the space pirates and Ridley killed Samus's parents. That might be important for character motivations, or just too much detail. Who knows?
There's one way to find out. Let's jump right into the second one.
True.
All right, so the opening for Metroid Prime 2 is Samus, who is kind of like a mercenary, gets assigned something by the Galactic Federation, which is sort of just the universal government. Says that 8 days ago, contact with Federation agents was lost. Samus go find and assist them in their last known location, which was a planet called Aether. It's a really pretty purple planet, but there's really intense storm happening. So she crash lands like all good sci-fi stories start. John,
Hmm.
having not played the first game, have you? I know I gave you like a brief summary of the first game before we started.
Hmm.
Have you at any point been like, I have no idea what's going on?
I kind of pieced it together, reading the different logs and lore that are around. So basically, it gave a rundown of well, the the pirates gave a rundown of their nemesis Samus in their backgrounds as you explored their logs. So it gave a very interesting impression of the dynamics here of just how scared they are of Samus. Because as soon as you start reading some of that lore in there, they're basically like, "Oh, the hunter's here, and she's gonna murder all of us. We need reinforcements now." So it's just funny to read that. So I wouldn't say I'm exactly lost when it comes to story wise. I kind of pieced it together what happened because it comes up in their lore that they'd fought her previously, and the material. What was it? What was it called? They were
Phase on.
Phazon that they were mining. They're trying to do that here as well. So they basically tied the two together pretty well, I'd say, as someone who hasn't played the first one.
Yeah, I think the storytelling in this is really great because it is very thorough, but it's all very well written.
Hmm.
John, you were mentioning like with the logs and stuff, you can scan your environment and find out information and like basically access journals and logs of scientists and the military members that are on the planet. And they really give you everything you need to know, and it's all flavored where to me at least, each character feels unique. Like there is, you
Yeah, all
find
three of them.
a, yeah, no, I'm talking about like, you
Oh,
find,
the perished people. Is
yeah,
that what
you
you mean?
find
Yeah.
like deceased members of the Galactic Federation, the guys
Hmm.
you sent to protect. She failed because she got there too late. Not her fault, but one of them says, so and so got mad at me today because I told her there's no way Samus Aran actually defeated an entire space pirate base by herself, which is what she actually did,
Hmm.
and said she got really upset and ran away and won't talk to me. And it's like, if she wants to believe in Samus Aran or in the Tooth Fairy or in Bigfoot, then like that's up to her. And so just Samus is of like mythological quality, and
Yeah.
the way the different characters either fear her or respect her or don't believe in her. And it's like that with kind of a lot of different aspects of the story where we see a lot of different sides to it.
Right. And one of
Um,
the funny things I found actually was some of those get wrote as you progress through the game because there's one that says, "Oh, Samus just did this, this, and this," and it's in one of the logs on one of the computers, and it
uh-huh.
was just funny to read because it was like, "Oh, that just happened like 2 hours ago. There was someone just here that wrote this." It was just
I did
funny.
do that. Uh, Before we get too into the story,
Hmm.
and kind of lose the forest for the trees, let's talk about gameplay. So, Joe, you're the best at describing gameplay and mechanics, so I'm gonna ask you to do that.
There you go.
Uh, Before we go into that, I want to ask what version of the game is everybody
Mm.
playing? Because some of the
That
gameplay
is
is slightly different depending on the
that is a
version.
great point, Joe. I'm playing the Metroid Prime trilogy remastered version, so I'm using like a Wii remote and nunchuck with pointer controls.
John, how about you?
I am using official Nintendo hardware software. Yeah,
You're using this copy
the
right here,
GameCube version.
the
Yep.
GameCube version.
Cool beans.
Using my official PS5 Nintendo controller, and yeah, I'm playing the original version.
I thought about hooking my PS5 controller up to my GameCube too, but I stuck with the actual controller. I'm playing the GameCube version as well. There are slight differences between the versions. The GameCube version was built for like a 4:3 aspect ratio, and the Wii version obviously can do 16:9 if you plug it up to a 16:9 TV. But the controls are a little bit different. Metroid Prime came out originally just for the GameCube, and they didn't use twin stick controls like a lot of first person shooters did at the time. They made it more tank controls with the control stick, and then they used the right stick to swap between different weapons that you might have. And you also have the D-pad that can swap between the different visors that you get as you play through the game. Whereas on the Wii version, you have to, I think you hold down the minus button,
Yeah,
and
so
you use that to swap between the visors that you have.
so you're aiming with your second stick is just the
Mhm.
pointer controls. If you hold down minus, it brings up like a menu, and you can point to which visor you want to clip, and you can also do that with your like beam weapons and your sub weapons.
Yeah. So it was a really, really bizarre coming from like the GameCube to the Wii version. Whereas in the GameCube version, you're like focusing entirely on just trying to move around and holding the R button to like actually move your pointer around the screen, or locking onto enemies and just strafing around enemies differently that way.
So you have to hold down the R button to aim. That's the button that does it.
Yeah, and that will lock you in place.
All right.
Yeah.
So
That's what I've been
so
dealing
talk
with the whole time.
Yep.
talk me through it, Joe. So I'm A is shoot.
A is shoot, yeah. B is jump. Y is missiles. X is morph ball. Z is bring up the map. L is lock on. R is uh, aiming around the screen.
C-stick is visors, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You mix up the buttons every 5 seconds. You have to hold down 5 buttons to do a certain thing in a level. You know, it's easy.
Yes, you do.
I think what we're hearing is play the Wii trilogy version,
And-
or have your legally owned copy,
Like,
and then legally
Throw it into your computer.
take the file into your computer, and then you can download a patch that I believe, Joe, you mentioned there's a patch that gives it like keyboard and mouse controls.
Straight up keyboard and mouse controls.
So
That would also probably work pretty well.
just to point out, I wasn't exaggerating. I noticed during one of the boss fights, I was holding 4 different buttons and pressing a 5th one, all to shoot a certain thing at the boss. Not even joking.
Yeah,
And you love it?
great.
So in the trilogy version, when you select, like, say you want to select the dark beam, I hold plus, I point to the dark beam, I let go of plus, I have that equipped until I change it back. Do you have to hold a button down to keep the dark
You
beam
flick
equipped?
it.
Yeah, you just flick the C stick to the right.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I understand y'all's pain.
And
Maybe
then
before the next recording, I'll boot up the GameCube version just to feel the controls.
and for your charge attacks, you actually hold down the button, right? Well, it
Right.
still shoots one of your ammo when you want to hold down the button as well. So you're wasting ammo, which doesn't really matter when you get the upgrades to hold more. But it shoots one just so you can charge the attack to shoot again, and it's just it's funny.
If you're a real pro, then you go back to your main cannon, you fire off a shot, and then you swap and start holding the button there while you're swapping. Then it'll just start charging without shooting.
You can't do that in the trilogy version because the shoot button's up here and the change button's way down here on the remote.
Maybe the GameCube version is the most optimal version.
Maybe.
With tank
With the
controls and
patch.
So, to sum up, Joe, it's a first-person shooter with clunky GameCube controls and decent motion controls on the Wii. But it's different than other first-person shooters of the time, and honestly, of any first-person shooter that's come out since that's not another Metroid Prime game. I can't think of another first-person shooter that's like this, that it's slow-paced, it's about exploration, it's about uncovering a story, it's about maybe to a lesser extent, but it's about solving puzzles. And there are moments, like there's still boss fights and stuff, but it's not, here's a wave of enemies, here's another wave of enemies. Like, it doesn't feel like Doom inspired.
Yeah, it's not just like level based or mission based. It's very open ended. It gives you a goal, and it is oftentimes somewhat a little bit linear, but it's still extremely open ended in what you can do and taking your time to figure out how to get there in the best way you can.
And puzzles, you know, hunting where you're supposed to go and remembering where to go after you run around a lot, you know, it's all part of the fun.
Yeah.
Luckily, you have a map at least, so.
For better or for worse.
So, John, that hits on the other genre. There's like first-person shooter and also what we would call a Metroidvania, which kind of feels silly to call a Metroid game a Metroidvania, like, obviously, but the Metroidvania just implies that you're going to be exploring a lot, finding dead ends, going other places, finding equipment so that you can come back to those dead ends and proceed. So whether it's a door that you can't open yet, or a jump that you can't make, or something to that effect, it's a lot of back and forth exploration. And John, like you said, remembering what you needed in certain places once you get the item. as someone who hasn't played much of the Metroid series, have you played many Metroidvanias?
Not really, no.
So what's your experience been like then, as someone who's not like a veteran of the genre of
Mm,
wandering and finding items and
it's
whatnot?
basically me wishing I would, write down the stuff that went by. But
Yeah.
see, the map is really helpful because a lot of these areas are blocked by certain doors and they're color coded. So you can look at the map and see which ones you haven't opened. Whenever you get the maps of the areas, you can see which rooms you haven't opened. So that really does help. It helps me narrow down. Hey, at least I have been to this room. I know there's a portal there. I guess it would help if I, like wrote something down and be like, hey, I've already did everything through that portal. I don't have to go back there again. But important, is not just knowing where the rooms are, but like the upgrades themselves that are in the rooms that are in places you can't reach.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a real trick that I haven't learned exactly how to keep track of that. So yeah, I mean it hasn't
Yeah.
been too terrible, but let's just say there's a lot of footage that I'm not going to be putting in this video.
That's a good point. Or a lot of footage. So how long did it take you to get to our stopping point? Which we
Mm.
haven't said. We're going through Torvus Bog, so the first half of the game.
I actually didn't keep track, but I've probably played like 11 or 12, maybe.
Okay. Joe?
I think I'm around 7 or 8 hours.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm at I'm at 8 hours. The only reason I know that is because the trilogy version like tracks
Hmm.
your hours in your save file. I don't know if the GameCube version does that or not.
It does whenever you boot it up. Yeah.
But John, you're right. There are awesome maps in this game. I
Hmm.
did not understand them when I was a stupid child, but now they're some of my favorite maps in games.
Very detailed, three-dimensional map.
It's
Mhm.
very 3 dimensional. It's
And
super
they're
and everything.
at least with the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, the controls to like view them like make sense. Like
Hmm.
it's very easy thing to do. It's not overwhelming looking at a 3D map.
You can like grab it and move it around, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that in Metroid Prime 3.
Can you not do that in the GameCube version?
You can. It's
You
more
can
like
rotate it and move it.
yeah. You can rotate it and like pan around, but you can't
Mhm.
just like grab like you're picking up a meat or something.
Oh, I gotcha.
Hmm.
It's more like a scrolling motion than a grabbing motion, I guess.
I gotcha.
All right. Uh, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
So the first area, you find out that someone's hijacked the ventilation system and it's spewing pesticides. Um, the Federation officers that you were sent to rescue were eliminated, some of them by splinter hives, which are just a native, very large territorial bug creature. Um, Stop me if you guys want to jump in at any point.
Hmm.
The first time I was like sat up tall and was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a good game," was when you're walking through this room that just has dead Federation and officers everywhere. You go into a room and then you come back the next, and they're standing
Yeah. That's
and they're
good. Yeah.
glowing purple and they're attacking you. And I mean, zombies now are kind of trite, but space zombies back in 2004, that's incredible. I was super into it. Shortly after we run into one of our primary antagonists for the game, we run into Dark Samus. So Dark Samus is literally just looks like Samus's power suit, her classic armor, except it's uh, corrupted and blue and black and kind of floaty and scary.
Hmm.
This is the arm that reached up through the Phazon in at the end of Metroid Prime One, and Dark Samus, is in front of what looks to be some kind of dimensional rift. The game
Hmm.
later confirms they're called portals, and you follow her into it. And Samus is ambushed by a bunch of shadow beasts from Twilight Princess that are called
The Heartless.
Ing
Yeah.
in this game. Yeah, or Heartless. So they're all kind of the same thing. Uh, and this is the point that happens in every Metroid game where Samus, who is like super powerful and armed to the teeth, is just completely stripped of all but her most basic abilities. Um, so I was having a great time jumping around with missiles and morph ball bombs and having a great time. And then that happened. I was like, oh yeah, at least they let me keep the Varia suit this time.
Yeah.
Uh, John, I'm gonna keep deferring to you since you're not super familiar with the Metroid series. When that happened, was that like, what the heck? Why are you taking my stuff? Or was it also new that you were like, I don't really know what I had that I don't have now?
So I've heard this before with Metroid games, where basically you start out with everything and then you just lose it all. So whenever she comes back, it's just like some monster stole all your stuff, and I'm like, you should probably put a lock on your ship.
It's a it's a little anticlimactic compared to how it usually happens. Like usually she barely survives a giant explosion or almost dies like in
Mm-hmm.
Metroid Fusion, and that's why she loses all of her abilities. But in this, it's just like you got mugged.
It is
Can't
probably
have
the most.
nothing on Aether.
Mhm.
What'd you say, Joe?
I said it is probably the most anticlimactic one that I can think of.
Yeah, but I mean it works.
Mhm.
So nothing to do but keep on going and hope you find your stuff later. You eventually find the Galactic Federation ship, and this is a really cool thing
Mm-hmm.
because the 2D Metroid games are very isolating for Samus. You don't run into friendly faces or even just like the ships of allies.
Mhm.
And so even though all the troopers are dead, it's really interesting to like see a ship from another faction
Mm-hmm.
here. And you can explore it, you can scan it, you can use it to kind of solve a puzzle of how you get to the next room. Um, but there's data on the ship that tells you that it was struck down in a purple magnetic storm, and the troopers were working to repair the ship, but were attacked by dark splinters, which were these splinters that have been affected by the dark energy that comes out of the portals, like the one that Salmon met, or Salmon went through and got mugged by the Shadow Beast from Twilight Princess. Um, just did this. So this was a cutscene that they showed when Samus is like analyzing. I don't know if it's the captain's body or something outside the
Mm-hmm.
ship. Did any of you have a reaction to this cutscene? I know it was 10 hours ago, but I'm just curious.
So did we mention that the reason these Marines are there is because they were attacked by a pirate ship, or they attacked a pirate ship and then they followed it to the planet?
Yeah, we did not. They were chasing the space pirates and
So
chasing to Aether, but then
mhm.
crash landed.
So that's why all of the space pirates and them are there at this point. So
Hmm.
that's why
That's
we were
right.
here in the first place. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think as you read the different logs of those soldiers that are there, it basically shows you the war of attrition they were fighting against the Ing, and ultimately them losing that battle because they were just getting overwhelmed and couldn't.
Mhm.
They were running out of ammo basically.
well, the soldiers. I don't even know if the soldiers met the Ing until they
Oh,
died at the
okay.
very end because they're having a war with the Splinters, which are just
Oh,
like native wildlife,
oh, I
and
didn't even realize that. Okay.
there's different arguments in different journals from the troopers, and some of them are like, all right, tonight we're gonna go up there with all the ammunition we have and blow the hive to heck. And then the next person's like, if you think about it, like you think about other wildlife, those hives are probably connected to other hives throughout the planet. And
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
we kick a hornet's nest, we're probably gonna get stung. But they do end up getting attacked by the splinters, but they're dark versions, so they are corrupted by the ing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was a surprise at the very end.
And I do want to point out again just how cool all the logs are of
Mm-hmm.
everybody and all the different personalities. Because you have some that are talking about like they're mad that they got split up, or they're upset that they weren't on one team, and that's like, I'm clearly the best shot. I should have been on the team that was
Yeah.
going out, not just
Hmm.
hanging around and you know watch being on watch out duty and all this stuff. It's really really cool.
Yeah, the writing in this game is top notch. For stuff that's so missable, you could run
Right.
past 99% of the stuff and not scan it and read it.
Yeah.
There's even
Go play
stuff where
fun
it's like
games.
extra data added to your logbook for
Yeah.
review, and sometimes I'm just like, nah, I'm gonna keep going. And I know, like, but not always. If it's like lore, I'll read it, but sometimes with enemies or certain puzzle stuff, I'm like, I get the gist. Um, After that cutscene happens, Samus like takes a moment, and it's really affecting and it's really dark, especially for a
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo game, because she literally like puts her head down, looks up at this deceased man's face, and like reaches up and like closes his eyes.
Yeah.
and then just takes a moment on a knee before getting up and just getting back to it. And I like got a chill when I saw that because this was the GameCube era, so Super Mario Sunshine had just come out.
Mm-hmm.
They were making Wind Waker. Twilight Princess hadn't come out yet, and Kirby Air Ride. Like Nintendo wasn't making games that were dark at this point in time, so that's just I think a really potent moment that makes this game feel very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that has to do to the fact that it's a third-party developer. It wasn't developed internally by Nintendo. And to top that off, it's a Western developer. I believe, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know, Retro Studios is an American publisher.
Yeah, I think they're based in Texas.
Let's see. Austin, Texas. Yeah, that's right. Oh, they also contributed to Mario Kart 7. That's neat.
I didn't know
that. Let's see. I misspelled acquired in my notes. Fixed it. Thank you, autocorrect. You move on, and there's a box in front of you, and the game teaches you can blow up boxes, and you end up getting missiles from them. Thank goodness you didn't have to go very far without missiles, because fighting bosses in this game without missiles is terrible.
I just want to point out real quickly, the last 2 times that I started playing this game, this is where I just got confused and gave up because I never blew up the box.
And I still didn't blow up the box.
Yeah, I still ran around for a solid 10-15 minutes when I was going through it this time again because I did not
read
blow
the
up
lore.
that box. I just thought it was another one of those big crates that would give you more health or whatever.
Fair enough. But see, that's where you're misguided, Joe. You always have to blow those up no matter what.
Yeah.
It's like a pot in a Zelda game.
See, I've been running around in the game, and I was wondering if it was possible to get soft locked in like a certain room. So, like, some of the doors require certain beams. So, but if the room has a particular door on one side, a particular door on the other, if you don't have either one, are you just stuck and you have to reload? That seems
I had to Google
annoying.
that. If you run out of ammo, you can do a charge shot, and it does 1 regular shot.
Oh, okay.
Even if you're out of ammo.
Okay, I was wondering. I was like, they had to have planned for that.
They did think about that.
So, like, if you need to open like a dark beam door and you have your dark beam ammo, you can still equip the dark beam and do a charge shot?
Yep, but it'll just do a regular shot.
What about missiles?
I don't know if you'll ever be soft locked in a room where you specifically need missiles or you can't go back.
I was gonna say those usually like lock you against like save locations and stuff. Is what I've noticed.
Yeah, and while
and they unlock after you blow them up once.
That's true. They don't return to being locked. That's fair. So I guess you probably couldn't get into a room you couldn't get out of.
Probably not.
That makes sense. It is worth noting that, like, in terms of pickups you get from destroying boxes and later on from, like, kind of weird organic pods that the native species stores things in. That's kind of weird. Excuse me. It seems like it's always health and missiles, and it's never beam ammo.
Oh.
Like,
well, there's only one way to get beam ammo.
Tell me, John. Enlighten me.
All right, so as you get further into the game, you get more and more beams. For example, I'm going to go over them real quick. We have a dark and a light. To get light ammo, you have to shoot things with the dark. And that includes the supply crates. If you shoot them with the dark gun or the beam, it'll give you light ammo, and then vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Is this explained?
Yes. The first time you get light and dark at the same time, it says if you need more ammo, shoot it with dark, or it tells you one gives you one and one gives you the other.
There is a non-zero chance that I accidentally pressed A twice in a row and missed that.
I was going to say, it's literally like one pop-up in one sentence. It says that, and then it never mentions it again.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be very helpful for the second half of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brain stopped working.
Well,
I had something to say, but I don't remember what it was. John, do you have something?
I was just going to segue us forward. After we find the ship, we get our first power up. We got our missiles back, so we can blow up some doors that I think there's just one that we've went by at this point that can use that, but at this point we've probably passed 1 or 2 doors that we can't even open. And you scan them, and they have a specific thing it tells you would need. It'll say, hey, you need dark energy to ignite this, or light energy to move this pillar. So it's things that you have to note, like I was explaining earlier, that you need to come back here later to collect all the cool stuff that might be hiding behind those doors. So, yeah, hopefully that gave you some time to think.
I remember what I was going to say.
There you go.
To get out of this area, you have to activate I don't know what they call it, but effectively it's just a cannon
Mm-hmm.
where Samus goes into her morph ball where she, I don't know, like a caterpillar mushes up into a small space.
It's like
And
a
then
Pokemon, you know?
Yeah, like
it's,
a Pokemon.
am I wrong that it's hilarious that she just is getting shot like a cannonball and just
It's
like
funny.
smacks a wall and falls down?
It's getting you
Yeah.
ready for the pinball game. Yeah.
Well, it makes you wonder if you just throw a Pokeball against a wall and it doesn't open, does the Pokemon feel it?
I mean, Samus clearly doesn't feel it. She doesn't take
Yeah,
any
no
damage, so
damage.
it's probably fine.
She actually doesn't take
Doesn't
fall damage really either. At most, I think I've taken one fall damage.
Uh,
she'll go, ah!
Yeah,
at the
take like one.
very end of this section, I discovered that you can take fall damage because you come out of the boss that we'll talk about at the end, but you come out of his room and it's just like an elevator and a straight drop.
And
I was
you're
like,
too
I don't got time
lazy to
for
take
this.
the
I just
elevator.
jumped.
Yep.
I took a lot of damage from
Oh,
that
really?
fall. It was very high.
Huh.
I don't think I've
I mean,
taken
not
that
like
much.
I mean, it wasn't like oh no, I almost died because of that, but it was
Mhm.
more than just you know. She
Right.
said but then it was like health. It was funny.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Once we get through this area, we make it to the temple grounds and also into like the Great Temple, where we find, in my notes, I just have new corpses of unknown creatures, perhaps taken and killed by their own kind. I, using clues that I have now, am going to assume that I was referring to Luminoth corpses, and we find out that the Ing, who are at war with Luminoth, can actually possess other living creatures. So that's probably what's happening there, where they're possessing Luminoth and forcing them to fight each other.
And the Federation troops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, also that.
Mhm.
We passed through a room filled with hibernation pods. I don't know why I felt that was important, but it actually is important because we find out
It
later
is.
that a ton of Luminoth are actually being like kept in hibernation. Um, so we'll talk in detail about the lore in just a second. But before we can get to our lore dump, we have to fight the Dark Alpha Splinter.
Yep.
It's our first major boss, and it's fine. It teaches you how to use the like strafe and dodge mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Surprising, I didn't have any trouble with this. I was learning to strafe, and it came in handy. That's all I really got on this one.
Yeah, I don't have.
I'll have
too
more to
much
say
to
on the
say.
on the later ones.
Yeah, it was a very very good like tutorial boss. Just be like, hey, this thing has more health than a normal enemy, and you got to think about how you're going to fight it or you'll die. But it wasn't challenging.
I will bring up at this point, I decided to play the game on hard mode because I
There's a
had
hard
the option
mode?
available to me. Yeah, once you beat it on normal,
Oh.
I think it gives you the option of hard mode, and I've never done that before, so I just decided to try it.
Sure.
And about halfway through what we've done so far, I decided to Google what actually hard mode does,
Mm-hmm.
and it just doubles the damage that's done to you and halves the damage that you do against bosses.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to come up later today where
I can already tell
It
you
gets
that
really
I'd have been done playing probably already.
some of the bosses get really repetitive.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that's not a great way to do a hard mode nowadays.
Yeah. But yeah, not too hard.
After you beat the Dark Alpha Splinter, you get an unknown alien item that bonds to your suit. And it's like, okay, that's weird. You go into the next room and you meet Umos, who is a sentinel of the Luminoth. So Luminoth are the native species of Aether. They're what they sound like. They're giant moth people, basically. And him being a sentinel basically means he's like the commanding protector of the Luminoth. He gives you a lore drop and tells you that a space object crashed into Aether and caused a rift in time and space and basically split Aether between two dimensions. There's a light Aether that you are in, and then there's a dark Aether, which the portals carry you to. So we were in there for just a moment.
When we got attacked.
Yeah. When the dark Aether was created, it also spawned the Ing. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, guys.
That sounds
but
right.
The Ing just started existing at that moment, and the whole war that the Ing and Luminoth are fighting are over Aether's planetary energy.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the idea is just the planet's energy and power to exist at all. And when it split, the Luminoth and Light Aether got 50% of the planet's energy, and the Ing and Dark Aether got the other 50%. But for either planet to exist safely without, being ripped apart or whatever their justification is, basically only one of them can survive. And so they're at a war over the planetary energy. And at this point, almost all of Light Aether's planetary energy is gone. The Luminoth are all but defeated. And Umos is asking Samus to go to Dark Aether, go to their temples where the energy is being stored, and reclaim it and bring it back to Light Aether to save the Luminoth people.
Leave it to Moth people to want you to gather all the light for them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Didn't think about that. Is this compelling? Is this compelling storytelling?
I think so. I think it's interesting.
I was going to ask, is this the plot of Kingdom Hearts? Having never played Kingdom Hearts,
Nope,
it sounds pretty close.
Someone
You
who is
got the
currently
darkness and peril and the.
I'm just gonna say you probably need like a 48-hour video to explain the Kingdom Hearts storyline. So
someone
This
who
is
is
Kingdom Hearts abridged.
yeah,
someone who is 85 hours into a full series replay of Kingdom Hearts. I can tell you that is not, in fact, how Kingdom Hearts works.
Okay, I'm going to say it is.
we just need Cloud Strife to show up and help out Samus for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's all we need. We need the
With
crossover.
bandages around his sword and a bat wing that's
Do you mouse
not
Mickey Mouse?
in anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have three things. One, I think it's compelling. I'm like, this is an interesting story. Dimensional travel doesn't seem overly complicated. It's not like multiverse nonsense. It's just two things you got to worry about.
Yep.
You're not
Dark and light.
At the end of this, Umos says, "You're our only hope, Samus," which this could just be me and my brain operating exclusively in references, but that felt like a Star Wars reference.
I was just thinking it as you said it, so you're not the only one.
And then Umos reveals that the thing that bonded to Samus after the
Dark Alpha Splinter.
Yeah, the Dark Alpha Splinter was defeated, was the tool needed for Samus to drain and convert the planetary energy. And I have to ask, why did a bug have that?
Bugs have a lot of things in this game.
That is true. They took all the loot and they split it among the dangerous ones.
But I get it when like a random boss has like the missiles, because Samus got like mugged and they took her stuff. Like, whatever, that has to end up somewhere. This is a thing that Umos theoretically created, and he's in charge of protecting the planet, and it's the planet's last hope. And he's like, oh, thank goodness you found that. This bug ran in, just got it. I had my back turned. I was making coffee, and I'm so glad that you found it.
Well, I was thinking about it the other way. I was thinking about it, maybe that bug, started out as a regular, and then it happened to grab that wherever it was located, and it became the alpha version, and it ran around and stole all the power from all the temples. That's the prequel.
Samus showed up.
That's the prequel I need to play.
Maybe the Light Splinter originally was a good guy, and he was originally just holding that module for him, and then he got taken over by the darkness.
So like 5 minutes before Samus showed up, Umos is giving the exact same speech to this bug. He's like,
only you can save us.
Hope, Alpha Splinter.
This could have been Alpha Splinter 2 Echoes, but Samus came along.
It's really funny. Umos gives you so there's all these like glyphs that are in the Luminoth language that you can't read, and Umos updates your translator so that you can read some of these glyphs. And it's kind of annoying because it's like, just give me the whole language and I can read everything. But the way they do it in an unusual, at least in my experience with Metroid, in kind of an unusual fashion, it's sort of hard boundaries on your progression through the story. Is every time you finish a chunk, you go back to Umos, and then he gives you a little bit more of the language so that you can open the door to the next area. And then you have to finish that chunk before you can move on to the next area.
I figured it out.
Yeah?
The Alpha Splinter went to the very last temple that we haven't been to yet, stole that device from the stronghold of the enemy, came back with it, and unfortunately perished. And so that taught him, hey, maybe I should have them, whoever's going to show up next to save us, go to these other two temples first. And then he arbitrarily chose which ones. There you go. There's just your new headcanon.
Well, the first one he sends us to with our limited translator ability is Aegon Waste.
Mm-hmm.
It's a desert area. How do we feel about Aegon Waste, boys?
I didn't have any strong feelings about it. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Initially, it just looks kind of similar to the temple grounds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of does, yeah.
Visually not that different, I don't think. You still kind of have the same drab color scheme. It's just a little bit more deserty.
So I didn't really get lost or anything in this area, you know. There weren't too many rooms. Let me put it that way. So it's pretty straightforward. And then, especially as I get further and further along, I was just kind of ignoring the things in the rooms because they were like so weak. I was just running through the rooms like, all right, I'm just gonna go down and to the left. Oh, there's another sandworm coming out of the ground. All right, I'm just gonna walk past you since you're stuck in this little pit, and I'm just gonna move on.
It doesn't help that those sandworms seem to respawn anytime you enter the room again. Like, even if you leave the room and then, like, save and then come right back out.
It's like Dark Souls.
Yeah. Usually when I'm playing through a Metroid Prime game, I'll oftentimes kill a lot of the enemies every time I come into the room. Now that I'm going on hard mode, I'm passing a lot of people. Because usually it's pretty fun to just, like, unload on enemies by spamming the A button as fast as I can, but now I'm sitting here doing that for, like, 2 minutes per enemy. And it just gets a little bit much.
For me, anytime I come into a new room, I try to clear it out. And then if I'm coming through that same room again, I usually just run by, which usually works fine. Every once in a while, there's like a very vertical room that requires some semi-precise platforming, and there'll be like jetpack space pirates flying around, and I'll like be making my last jump, and they'll bump into me and knock me all the way back down, and I'll be so upset. But then I'll just start jumping again and not actually shooting at him at all.
One of those rooms is in this area, actually. It's got a vertical area with pillars in the center. And, you know, when I came back through here, the enemies would just respawn on those pillars. They'd just be flying around, and I'd just run into them, and I'd fall to the ground. Okay, here we go again.
That being said, space pirates, kind of cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
so I remember seeing what I thought was, like, these guys with, like, talons for arms crawling on the walls, like, in the Super Nintendo game.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if they were the same thing or not because it's just going off my childhood memory of this stuff. But I seen those and I was like, man, those look really similar, and they actually look really cool in this. So
Space
I didn't realize
pirates,
they were the same.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, space pirates. Are they a species? Who knows? But they're space pirates.
They're not going to be a species for long if Samus keeps after them.
They have been for a while so far. They keep showing up.
That's true. Samus has not done a great job of eliminating
Just like them
thus far.
dastardly Metroids.
Yeah, so I was actually wondering about that. Why?
What's up?
So whenever you're going through, they're talking about the need for more and more reinforcements, but yet they made the decision to have the pirates keep respawning. So it kind of goes away from their own lore when they're like, hey, we really need reinforcements. We're running low on people. And then you go back through the area and they've respawned. I don't know. It just kind of I feel like it took away from the story a little bit, this much. Just because of that happening.
Dribbling in.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that. Maybe they are getting more reinforcements.
I guess.
I think that's a valid criticism of like story rubbing up against gameplay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It would be interesting. Maybe not engaging, but it would be interesting just for the world to be empty after Samus goes through. Like enemies don't respawn because
not
Samus
even that.
is already...
But like maybe Ing there instead or something.
Sure.
Taking over the court. A dark version of the pirates. That they resurrected them like the zombies we fought.
Hey, since we're talking about fighting things, let's talk about... So that would be really cool, John.
Yeah.
Space pirates. Those are cool to fight. They have cool moves. They jump around. Their design is really cool. Sweet. Most of the, like, ecosystem critters, those are kind of neat to fight. Most of them are kind of bugs, which is weird that there's not, lizards. I guess there's a couple of lizard enemies, and those are fine. The fish are cool later on. The Ing. I think the Ing are hot trash to fight. I don't have fun fighting them pretty much ever.
Yeah. I don't know if we've encountered them yet, but there's the one guys that they're just like an eyeball on a tentacle.
Yep. That's the
Those,
one I'm mostly talking about.
oh, really? Those are just like
Hmm.
one charge shot for me. I never had too much issue with them.
Okay, maybe it's not the one I'm talking about. There's one that's like there's one that it's like a red like sphere and it's
Mhm.
got like viney black all over it and it
Tendrils. Yeah.
phases in and out of
Those,
existence.
yeah,
I
those are
cannot
annoying. I hate
stand the
those.
Okay,
ones that do that.
sorry, that's a different one. My bad.
Like
Yeah,
enemies that phase in and out of existence because it's only when I'm about to hit them that they're like, oh, I'm gone now.
And you
my
can't
main
lock
method.
onto them
Hmm.
when they're phased out, and it's hard even with the motion controls. I promise, it's not just me being terrible. It's hard to like follow along with them and
Mhm.
unleash your fire on time before they phase again.
My main method of killing them is to shoot one of the light emitter bulbs, whatever we call
Hmm.
them, with the light beam, and just hope that it runs into it.
Does hitting the light crystals with a light beam make the zones deadlier?
Yeah, it'll like one
That's
shot
cool.
anything that walks into it.
Does it make it bigger
Nope,
too? No.
it makes it orange for a little while and deadly.
Ah, yes, the color of the light, orange.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
but yeah,
Uh,
you're right.
all right. We continue through Aegon Waste. We fight the Bomb Guardian.
All right.
Uh,
So,
I. Okay, yes, John.
so this is where I started very long boss fights, in my opinion.
So to be clear, the second boss, John, is when you decided that the bosses were not good.
No, no, no. I'm not gonna say they weren't good. It's
Okay.
I've got this theme now where basically I just go in and I learn what they do, I
Hmm.
learn what to do, and then I die, and then I actually try it. um,
Okay.
so,
Good strategy.
but this one annoyed me because I was so close to killing it the first time, and I don't know, just the way it ran around, I was just missing lock-ons and getting annoyed. But
Hmm.
it's very satisfying when I get annoyed fighting something and then I get to murder it. So it works
Yeah.
out.
I have a feeling all three of us are going to be able to feel that way about a boss later on.
Hmm.
If your life was anything like mine for about 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I was gonna say. A lot of these boss fights are long because I would go and like record specific boss fights for the video I'm gonna have like right here
Right.
or here. I don't know which way. But but the fact that just how long that they take, like some of them were 20 minutes and it was just a boss fight. And like
Yeah.
if you mess up right at the end, then you have 40 minutes for a boss fight. So it's just yeah.
When I was looking things up before we started this video, some of the criticisms for this game I was coming across were that the boss fights get repetitive, and I think that is accurate because some of them do take a really long time and they have very few move sets. So it doesn't take much for them to get repetitive if they just last a long time.
Yeah. And a lot of the bosses in this game, which for the most part I've been fine with them. I'm not loving the boss fights. I don't get excited to fight a boss unless it's like the big boss at the end of an area. But they're all most of them are like Bomb Guardian, and then later there's Grapple Guardian and Boost Guardian, and it's just the name
Well,
of the power up
yeah,
power
that you're
up
gonna
that they're
get.
gonna
Yeah.
drop
Yeah.
Guardian. And Joe, do you remember Metroid Prime 1? Is it like that?
Yes, there absolutely was a bomb guardian. I think there was a spider ball guardian or a boost guardian or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. It wasn't every boss for sure, but there were some that were like that.
I don't know. To me, that's like not super compelling.
Yeah, it's kind of lame.
But Bomb Guardian wasn't a dark enemy, right? It wasn't corrupted by the Ing. It was just a creature.
Yes, it was.
It
It
was
started out as a
corrupted?
creature and then got corrupted while you were fighting it.
Well,
And
see,
it
it's
became
so,
Dark Bomb Guardian.
but it does start out as just a normal creature, so I could accept it. I don't. I'm being very nitpicky about the naming conventions they decided to use that are fine, but if these were all like Ing subordinates that had been assigned to protect these certain things,
Oh.
then I'd be like, oh, that's really cool that they're called blank Guardian because that's their role.
Hold on.
But yeah,
I want to interrupt you. It started out as the Alpha Sand Digger, and then when it got corrupted mid-fight, it became the Bomb Guardian.
then I have no
Okay.
complaints. I think it's a perfect game, honestly. All right, you beat the Bomb Guardian, and then you get the Morph Bombs, or I think it's called bombs, and you can use that to open doors, which is hilarious. The cutscene for the Luminon security station, uh, when you bomb, it's really cool because it's like a circular room, and then you bomb in the middle of it, and then it swings around, and it does kind of a, almost a trick of like camera angle, where it doesn't look like you're moving at all. But if you're paying attention, you can see that you end up on the other side. And I don't know, I think that's a cool transition that's worth acknowledging in terms of animation and design.
Yeah, I thought a lot of the transitions they did whenever you, if you unlocked a secret or did an elevator or shot a specific gem on the ground that makes a pillar show up. I thought all those animations were really cool. So, yeah.
Really good animation work.
I actually thought about this while I was playing a little bit earlier, was the fact that even when it comes to like boring connectors between like big rooms, they still made them unique in how you did them. Like other ones, you would use the morph ball to just go through this little section of pipe. Other ones, it's a standard hallway with like, hey, supplies that you can break open, or like a wave of enemies that flows through it so you can shoot them to get supplies back or beams and stuff. So it's nice that even in those little connector areas that they took the time to, make them unique in their own way.
And it's really cool that all these connector areas, they, you're like, oh, this is just like a long hallway. And you're right, John, they make it interesting, but like it has to be a long hallway because it runs parallel to a large room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like this physical space actually exists right now. It's not like other games that are coming out in 2004 where you open a door, it fades to black, it fades back in, and it loaded you in a new location. Like this is a continuous world except for specific scenarios when you take elevators to farther away locations.
Yeah.
So I hadn't thought about that. That's really compelling. You don't meet because they're dead, but you find the corpse of Aisha, and they've recorded a post-death video for you to watch, and says, "Hey, welcome to Aegon Waste. Your only hope. Go to the Dark World. Find 3 keys. Use those to get into the Dark Temple. There are light crystals in there because the atmosphere is going to mess you up real bad. And also, I'm going to update your language since Umos didn't do that."
Maybe only each of them knows the language,
Yeah, maybe he just doesn't know the languages.
He's like, "Oh, I did horrible."
It's the regional dialects,
It's regional dialects.
He didn't know the Amber dialect.
Yeah.
But between this and getting to Dark, well, no. You get to the portal and it's not working. And you got to figure out how to activate a bunch of giant magnifying glasses that are somehow going to make the portal work. But then I don't believe are necessary at any other point to make a portal work.
Correct.
So that's kind of fun.
It's just that one was broken.
Yeah, that's fair. And then you run into the pirates, and they're hauling Phazon around. There's Phazon on planet Aether, John. Are you surprised?
Nope.
Oh.
I didn't know what it was, but as I read the lore, no, I wasn't surprised. I was like, well, that makes sense, because that's what they do.
Space pirates at it again with their Phazon.
Well, yeah, what I learned from the lore was that they were using Phazon, and when they ran out, they were using Metroids as a form of, temporary.
Yeah. And they're breeding Metroids now, which...
And they
wildly irresponsible.
They expressed at least 6 different logs how important it is to not treat them as a pet, and I just kind of kept laughing the whole time.
Yeah, because people kept doing it.
It reminds me of like the
They are
Resident
cute,
Evil logs, where they're like actively creating the most deadly creatures that have ever existed. And then there's like a meme about it where it's like page 1 of Resident Evil Diary. It's like, I got bored and decided to give a silverback gorilla AK-47s for arms, and I've been poking it with a stick for the last hour. Hope it doesn't get out. And the next page is like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Like, Metroids are arguably the most dangerous thing on the planet because they are parasites that feed off of any living creature.
I was going to say, I don't actually know how dangerous a Metroid is, so I was like, oh, these must be bad, but I don't know why.
Well, if you were the Space Pirates, you would know there's at least 5 games before this that tell you should not have Metroids around you.
Oh, okay. And the Space Pirates did it anyway. Got it.
They just keep forgetting.
Yeah, Metroids are super dangerous. Let's just talk about Metroids for a second. Usually, Metroid's weaknesses are ice. You freeze them, and their metabolism doesn't deal well with cold, so you freeze them, and then you destroy them after they're frozen. But it
Oh,
might come in the second half of the
say that
game.
again.
So, Metroids in the previous games, their weakness has always been ice. So you
Ah,
can get some
okay.
kind of ice beam or an ice missile to freeze them, and then they're vulnerable to your kind of normal weapons.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at least so far in this game, you don't have an ice weapon. I don't know if you do get one, but you don't have one so far.
Right. Yeah.
Joe is making faces, so I'm gonna ignore Joe.
Well, I actually learned this playthrough as well. The dark beam is very cold, and the light beam is very hot.
What?
So it's a very common thing in Metroid games where if you have like an ice beam, you can freeze something and then shoot it with a missile, and it just kind of cracks and destroys. The same logic applies in this game with the dark beam, where if you use a charged shot, hit something with it, and it gets encased in darkness or whatever, you can hit it with a missile, and it just kind of blows up.
So
do they
yeah,
do
that's
they
interesting.
say that the dark beam is cold?
They
It
do.
hasn't
Yeah.
They've said that,
Fight,
and I
fight,
missed
fight.
it. What? That's
They
crazy.
have said it at some point in this game, and you also notice if you hit stuff with the light beam, it just kind of starts to burn and melt.
Huh?
Well, that like makes a little more sense because to me the light is
Light
like
is
solar
energy,
kind of
yeah.
energy.
I don't remember which one it was. I want to say in one of the boss logs where you like scan it and then you hit start and you go read a little bit more about it. It mentioned something about the dark beam
Oh,
being
of course. Why didn't I
Okay,
realize
well, I
that?
didn't
Of
do that.
course.
Extremely,
All right,
So-
fair enough.
So this is. So we're at the point where we're talking about finding the Metroid farm. Is that what we're talking about? Or
we
That
were
happens
gonna-
in just a little bit. We're just talking about Metroids, but go ahead.
no. It's fine.
No, go ahead. No, we are there.
Okay.
They are
So,
they're breeding
basically-
Metroids.
I did that. I did the loop. And I came back through there. I think there's a save location nearby, so I went back there to go use it. And then all the Metroids got out, and they kept jumping on me. But I did learn that in one of the lores or logs, I think, that if I turned into the ball, they would get off. But
Yep.
I couldn't hurt them in any way, so I just left them. So it's interesting. So can you actually kill them?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I think you can kill them with any weapon, but the common weakness is a charge shot with something cold and then
Oh.
a missile.
I didn't notice I was hurting them anyway. So-
Yeah.
I went back to that room because I was just looking for all the secrets, and there was something that you could get. I don't know if it was because I had the space jump or the grapple
Something
or something.
new we grabbed, yeah.
Something new, yeah. And there's like another door or a power up or something in there. But to get there, so in this room, there's like the puzzle where you have to scan different parts of the computer to get the equipment to raise and lower and basically make a staircase.
This room.
So I'm in
Oh,
this
yeah.
room being swarmed by Metroids,
And ignoring them.
completely out of dark ammo, trying to solve this puzzle. And I'm just having a bad time, but I eventually did it. But that was one of those times where I was like, I don't know how to kill these guys, and this is really annoying. But now I know, Joe, that I just need to read.
As much as I love these games, there's one fear out of every video game I've always had, and it's when a Metroid is on your face. If I see a Metroid coming at me, I'm in morph ball before
All
it
right.
ever happens.
Is that scarier than a facehugger coming at you from Alien? Which one would you rate more scary?
I haven't played any of the Alien games,
Oh.
and I've seen one of the movies.
Joe,
I'd say
you
it's probably on par since Metroid is based on the Alien franchise.
Fair enough.
got to play Half-Life Alyx in VR and tell me what it feels like to have a head crab on your face.
I did start playing that game one time, and I just was on the edge of the room shooting.
Can
And
you-
he jumped at me?
Do you have the capabilities to record VR?
Yeah, I could do that.
I would love to watch you play Half-Life Alyx.
I'll
I'll,
stream
I'll,
Half-Life
I'll take a
Alyx.
Dramamine before we start and be just fine.
Anyway,
Oh.
Metroid Prime.
Anyway. So yeah, you find the space pirates. They're mining Phazon. They're breeding Metroids, quote, for power. And as you're going through, you're reading their logs, and you find out the space pirates have also been engaging with the Ing. Whether it's for territory or whether it's specifically because they're mining Phazon, it's hard to say. The Ing could just be killing blindly anything in the light world that's not Ing. But there's also notes about struggling against the Dark Hunter. who they call a quote level platinum AAA threat.
So
And I just love that nonsense denotation system for how scary Dark Samus is.
It's accurate.
what's
But
funny
then,
is they think it's Samus the whole time in a different suit.
yeah, they're like, oh, she showed up and she's like goth now, so
Yeah.
and very angry.
Yeah.
And then later on, there's another entry where it's like, so you know that Dark Hunter? Yeah, it turns out Samus is here actually, so there's two of them we got to worry about. And
Yeah. At some
um,
point, they realize that Samus and Dark Samus aren't friends too. There's another lore entry about that.
Right, and
yeah,
those are the ones I was talking about, where it's like, oh, so they just wrote this like an hour ago.
Yeah.
uh-huh.
So now it's like not only do they have two massive threats against them, they're also threats against each other. So it's not even a case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Well, I thought they were gonna try that. Like, hey, yeah, we're gonna see if we could, recruit Dark Samus, maybe.
Maybe they will.
If you scan the Metroid cases, by the way, it's all really horrific. There's one with like three Metroids like eating a space pirate, and you scan the space pirate, and it's like the tank is keeping him barely alive. He's surely in like complete agony, but he's won't die. And I'm like, what the heck? What are you? He's just being eaten alive and being kept in that state.
Oh, and then another one says, yeah, so the Metroid is kept in a constant state of just enough anger or outrage to put it in where it will never sleep. I was like, that's awful.
There's another one that's like Metroid is experiencing symptoms of food poisoning after being fed too many pet treats. It's like you're torturing this one, you're giving this one treats. What's happening?
There were logs of like, guys, stop giving the Metroid food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
You solved that storage rack puzzle, which is fine puzzle. You know, it does its
fine.
job. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then you get a boss fight that I was not ready for, and
Which
that I
one?
was very excited halfway through. Is you fight Dark Samus. I wasn't expecting her to be faced so early.
So,
Yeah, I was just surprised by that as well.
John, talk us through your experience with the boss fight.
All right, so actually, I did the routine where I died the first time, but I did learn a lot. Basically, I think I got to what I'm going to call the second phase, and then I was like, this is good enough. And so I basically learned the second phase and went back and did it again, and I had pretty good results. I think I have one extra health bar now. I think I've got 2 health bars. I don't know what that's called, energy bars. And
Yeah.
so basically, you're in this room with 4 pillars around the room and then one in the center. And so you're just strafe dodging Dark Samus around the room. And you hide behind the pillars, and eventually she'll explode them. So you have to use the central pillar to dodge her attacks. And you're basically just shooting charging shots at her at this point, and missiles periodically, I would say, I guess. And eventually she powers up to her second phase, and she starts doing these a lot bigger attacks at you, and you have to use the main pillar to avoid them because dodging, you're still going to end up getting clipped. And then she'll basically tackle herself at you at some points, and you just have to dodge that, and then you can hit her with a charged attack or something.
That second phase blew my mind because the first phase is pretty like I'm just being shot at. I'll stand behind this pillar and I'll shoot back. Blah 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 blah. And then the second phase started, and for me, the very first thing that she does is she like floats up into the air, and I'm like, oh, she's charging something up. Let me hide behind the pillar, and she just crashes through the pillar,
yep,
and like slams me into the wall.
Yeah.
And I was like, just sitting there by myself at like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Freaking out at the TV. It was a really cool fight.
I thought this fight was awesome. This is also when I like really started to notice that hard mode was going to take a really long time.
Yeah.
I was in this fight for a while.
Am I
Especially this
regretting my decisions?
Yeah. The second phase is also when she gets like an energy shield around her, and there are moments where you can't. So you just have to like wait until she does the charge attack and then start blasting on her. But it was a really cool fight. I
So
think
how much?
Metroid,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think Metroid Prime 2 is a little bit harder than some of the other games because it seems like you go through a lot of boss fights with not very much health towards the beginning. Like you're only stuck with like 2 or 3 energy tanks max if you've been getting everything so far, and it's really easy to miss a couple of them too.
Hmm.
But they don't really care. They just send boss fights at you.
Another
Joe,
one.
the hard mode, is it mostly just it taking forever, or are you dying and having to redo them very much?
I've I think I've died once in my
Okay,
playthrough so far, but it's mostly that they just take forever to kill.
sure, sure. Let me see. So you beat Dark Samus, and by beat, I mean she just decides that she's done fighting you and runs away.
You passed my
Um,
test, mortal.
then you enter a room and you see some space pirates go through a dark portal, and you follow them through the dark portal, and they're just corpses. It's like seconds later, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just destroyed. And if you scan their corpses, it's very graphic descriptions of like what happened to them and their state. And then you get the light beam and the dark beam. I don't. I
Mm-hmm.
just have it in one note. I don't know if you get them at the same time or if it's just like
Uh,
in very quick
It's separate.
succession.
you get the Dark Beam right after fighting Dark Samus.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay. And then you follow the space pirates in and get the light beam like 10 minutes later.
I think so.
Don't you get
That-
your first Dark Temple key after that fight too?
Which
Ye-
Dark Samus?
Yeah, after Dark Samus. Like
Yeah,
it's
there's one-
No, 'cause-
it's like
'cause
after you
that's
go
still
into
in
the
Light
Dark
Aether.
World, right?
Yeah.
Right after Dark World. Yeah.
Yeah, once you go in the dark world. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, so now you're in the dark version of Aether. By the way, do y'all say Aether or do y'all say Ether?
I've
Aether.
been saying Aether.
Okay, cool.
And then this is that joke I made earlier. The air is literally toxic, so you gotta stay in the light crystals to not take damage.
Yeah.
How do you
How
guys
do you
feel
feel
about
about that, Joe?
I don't know. It runs into a bigger thing about this game that I never really liked that much was also something we haven't touched on yet. Or we did touch on it. The Dark Beam has limited ammo, and so does the Light Beam. And this is, I think, still the only Metroid game that's ever had beam ammo.
Metroid
Most of
Prime
them-
Hunters, baby.
Oh, it does?
It does.
Okay, well, that one's also lame.
I don't know about the others. I
Wow.
haven't played them recently.
But yeah, you have limited beam ammo, and this Dark World, it just drains your health constantly unless you're in like light crystal pods, I guess. And there are also some other life crystal, I don't know, floaty ball things where you can shoot them and they'll like pop up in a little bubble of light, and it'll go away after a little while. But your health regenerates slowly in there.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been the kind of player to hoard like every ammo and everything I could ever have and be like, oh, I'll save it for a later use, and I'll always have to have max ammo on everything.
I hate being low. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of how the Dark World feels to me as well, because I'll just sit in a little light beam bubble until my health is refilled back,
Yeah.
and it refills really, really slowly.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point in the game, it also drains really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to not do that in this playthrough, but I don't know. I still do it a lot.
Ridiculous how fast your health is drained compared to how fast it like is recouped. Granted, you get the dark suit later, and it kind of mitigates that where you don't really have to worry about being in the dark. I just don't know if does it make the dark aether threatening? Yes. Is it threatening in a way that is fun since you're still playing a video game? I don't know that it is.
I don't know if it is either. It's just kind of annoying.
But, you know, it doesn't last super long because you do get the dark suit pretty soon, and that makes it where you're losing health and recovering health are relatively even, and when you're in dark aether.
I have not confirmed if hard mode makes you lose health faster in the Dark World yet, though.
That would be brutal.
I really don't know if it does or not.
I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just an enemy damage
Yeah.
thing, but I don't know. That brings us to our next boss, which is the Jump Guardian, another noun guardian here.
Jump Guardian was quite a ways back, actually.
What'd you say?
I
Yeah,
said
the Jump Guardian was
actually.
before Dark
Look,
Samus.
I'm reading my notes, and I don't need this from you. This is when I fought Jump Guardian.
All right. This walkthrough I have pulled up is wrong, sorry.
No, I think what happened is when I first started taking notes, I have my light aether notes and my dark Aether notes separated.
Okay.
But I stopped doing that after the first area.
When we
So
brought up Metroids is when we kind of jumped a little bit.
Deviated. Yeah.
Yeah, Jump Guardian was like as a little after you first go into the Dark Ether earlier.
well, you fight Jump Guardian, and I didn't write anything about it except for that it gives you the space jump boots.
Yeah, honestly, that was just like an enemy. You're just a regular ing enemy. That's
Yeah,
how I seen it. It just
it was
moves
just-
around. That's about it.
It was just a
Did it
bigger
jump?
ink.
Yeah, and jumps. Yeah,
It wasn't very notable.
right.
But
Yeah.
the space jump is awesome because it's basically just a double jump. They call it the
Mhm.
space jump because you're in space, but it's just a double jump. And it's nice.
I think getting double jump is when Metroid Prime games really open up because
Yeah.
it feels so much more freeing.
Do both of you also double jump no matter what? Even
Yes.
if you could easily, even if you could easily clear it with a single jump.
It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like when I play Spyro, I always double jump anyway.
Well, right after you get the light beam, there's a pop-up that says defeat enemies with the dark beam to earn
Mhm.
light ammo.
Yeah,
Well,
Defeat
you can
enemies with
ignore
the
that.
light beam to earn dark ammo.
or you can ignore that. You know,
Yeah,
readings for
another.
losers.
true.
There's another. No, wait. We'll get to that in just a second. So you find the dark keys. I didn't write down specifically where and how you find them because there was nothing to me that was super noteworthy. So jump in if you want. If not, I'm going to comment on the UI for a second.
Okay.
Specifically the UI for the menus. Because I was scanning something and it was like lore added to logbook, and I was like, oh sweet. And then I pressed the wrong button and didn't open it. And I was like, oh, let me just go to my logbook manually. And it's the first time that I've done that.
Mhm.
Because if you're scanning something and you press it, it just takes you right to that page. But this, it opened up the logbook, and it opened up like a thing with 8 tabs. And then I clicked on it, and there was 4 tabs. And then I clicked on one, and I was like, I don't even know if I'm going the right direction. I'm
Yeah,
like
heavily
10
nested.
layers deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it looks really cool. But like retro, calm
it's
down.
really.
It's
might not be intuitive.
really hard to navigate.
Yeah. Which,
That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to complain that the even like looking at your equipment, it's like a, I don't know, it's like a sea urchin looking thing where it's like spiky and you
Yeah.
can rotate it to click on stuff, but it's just really hard to navigate and it doesn't tell you what's in each submenu.
I will say in the GameCube version, that's how like the title screen menu is. I don't know if it's like that in the Wii version, but
Yeah,
when you're
yeah. I was gonna say it's in our menu.
They
Yeah.
they fixed it. It's just like 1, 2, 3, start game. Like it's
Oh,
just a
yeah.
menu.
Ours is like a nucleus of cells like coming off of like
yeah,
yeah.
like single player, multiplayer options,
And
or
it
file.
looks so cool. Oh, by the way, there's multiplayer in this game.
Mhm.
None of us have played it. I think I didn't play it,
No, I haven't.
but it's it's up to 4-player split screen death matches, and also there's a mode called Bounty Hunter, which is just the coin mode in Smash. So one is you're all playing as different colored Samuses, and you have your normal abilities, and you can get power ups, like stronger weapons from later in the game, running by finding them in the arena. Yeah, there's just like shoot your friends until they die, or shoot your friends and steal the money that pops out, and that's it. It seems neat. I would play it on a Sunday afternoon for fun, but
yeah.
I played it with my cousins when I was younger. I don't remember the bounty hunter mode. I just remember the deathmatch mode, and I do remember having fun with it. Mostly getting destroyed by my cousins, but I remember having fun with it.
the trilogy version is really interesting because you go to like this title screen and it pops up and it says single player Metroid Prime 2 echoes multiplayer settings.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh, this is like front and center. This is like the thing.
Yep.
But yeah, so that exists. So if you want to get 4 GameCube controllers and a CRT and have a good time, or a Wii, you can do whatever you want.
Like and subscribe if you'd like to see us play Metroid Prime 2 Echoes multiplayer.
Oh gosh.
I hear you. So, anyway, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like for this area, there's not really a boss like hiding or hiding the keys behind it every time. Like it's just they're just there, and you have to go collect them, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're just kind of in the environment.
Okay. So anyway,
There was one where you get trapped and you have to fight a bunch of Ing in
oh
like,
yeah,
one
that's right.
small area, but
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
4 of them show up, but they only show up 2 at a time. They're nice about it, you know.
yeah. For the most part, they're just the keys are just kind of sitting there.
Okay.
Do you have anything else to say about Aegon Waste before we get to the final boss of the area?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. No.
All right. Oh wait, I have one more thing to say.
Nice.
So John, you were talking about how on the maps it tells you like what color doors there are, so you know what you need, and if you don't have, what to get through. There is one door, or there's one area in Aegon Waste that is open and has like 3 or 4 exits. One of those exits is blocked by a gate, and there's a portal on the other side of the gate. So what happens is later in the game you have to come from dark aether into light aether on the other side of the gate. But I promise I got lost a couple times, and every time I would just circle back around to that room to try to go through this door that I can open, but haven't yet, only to find that there's a gate. And man, I took 6 pages of notes, and I still like just never wrote it down to remember that was happening.
Yeah, I definitely did that a couple times too.
Oh. All right, so the big boss for this area is called Space Guardian. No, I'm just kidding. It's called a Morbus, which is, I don't know if that's a better name or not, but it's called a Morbus. I wrote big worm powered by Spaceball, and then I have a sub bullet underneath that says 3 big worms.
Yeah. Another one.
So this is kind of a Metroid staple, John, where
Giant
an
worms.
enemy tries to eat you, and you let them, and then you blow them up from the inside.
Oh, okay. It took me a lot longer than I expected to figure that out. I think it was my second after I'd already died the first time. I was like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah.
But I just wasn't getting it. I was like, "Why can't I kill this?" And then this is because I had to go inside of it and then use a bomb. Of course. Why didn't I think of this? And then after that happens, it's like, what if you did that again, but with 2 of them? And then you do that, and then it's like, all right, hear me out. 3.
Yeah.
But I mean,
final offer.
I mean, honestly, after I learned that mechanic, that boss fight was long, but it wasn't hard. Because ultimately, you're just dodging them. You hit them in the sky a little bit, and then they just show up and like, all right, time to turn into a vacuum. And then you blow them up, and then it's like, all right, I'm good now. So I don't know.
And the dark aether atmosphere, it is annoying, and at this point you still don't have the dark suit, but you, like, I don't know, for those boss fights I just stood inside the light the whole time, and if the boss wasn't where it needed to be for me to hit them, then I just waited for them to come where they needed to be for me to hit them. And so I ended the boss fight at almost full health. It wasn't really a concern.
In my experience, they were like destroying the light crystals while we were fighting and forcing me to run around.
Yeah.
This is one of the first bosses where I actually got like stressed because my health was getting low, and I would like destroy some of their shielding or whatever, and they would drop some like yellow or blue health, and I'm just like, oh, I gotta run over there and get that because I am really low on health.
Right.
Don't forget that when you can charge and draw all the pickups to you.
Sometimes they're just too far away.
Yeah,
You
that's
still have to
true.
go
They
there.
are.
But yeah, I thought this boss was kind of cool.
Good.
Yeah, I
I
like
can't
this
remember.
boss well
I
enough.
can't remember if this boss did it. There are a couple bosses in this game where you do have to scan them twice, and it will give you like a different entry. Some of them will give you like at this phase you do this, and in this phase you need to do this. I can't remember if this boss specifically mentioned that it's weak to explosions on the inside, or however they word it, where you have to go into the morphball.
To be honest, who among us isn't weak to explosions on the inside?
That's true.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fair.
This was the battle where I learned that missiles have like tracking on them.
Yeah.
Because-
They literally are like heat-seeking missiles, basically.
Yeah, because I'm super cheap,
Yeah.
and like I'm like Joe, where I want to like hoard my resources. So I, up to this point, was not really shooting missiles. I was just doing charge beams for everything, which do not track. And I was having a little bit of a hard time with this boss fight. And I was like, ugh, let me just shoot some missiles. And then it started following them, and I was like, oh, okay. So we beat a Morbus, and we get the dark suit, which is super brown. It looks really cool, but like the dark world is purple and black. So just rationalize that for me, Joe.
I don't know if I have a rationalization. I didn't really like the dark suit that much. It started to grow on me the more I've had it, but initially I don't really like that it's designed that much.
I think it looks neat. It's just it's not the correct color if it's supposed to represent like the dark part of Aether.
Yeah, there is a what is the Phazon suit? Isn't it like black in
Over
Metroid Prime?
Metro Prime 1.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I don't know. Maybe they just didn't want to step on the toes of that too much.
But like purple, right?
Yeah,
Purple's but I guess then you
I
have the
think the
space
gravity suit from
purple
Metroid Prime 1 and Super Metroid is purple.
or that suit. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway,
I
it
don't know.
looks neat. In the Metroid Prime trilogy version, the game boots up and it's like a bunch of green technological looking uh parts like moving around. And then when you select your game, it like zooms out and it shows that all the meanings were actually inside of Samus's arm cannon. And then she like fires a shot and the game loads. I don't know. It looks really cool, but it actually loads whatever suit she's wearing in the game in your save file currently. So
Oh,
it's
that's
her just normal suit. But when I got the dark suit, I realized the next time I loaded it up, it was her in her dark suit.
that's super cool. I didn't
Yeah,
know
it
that.
looks really neat. You get the
That's
dark
cool.
suit, and then you end up in the Dark Aegon Temple, where you plug your cannon into the torture box from Doom
Yep.
and
Stealing all the power.
suck up 33% of a planet's energy and store it in that piece of equipment that the spider was carrying. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds alright.
You got
Okay.
it.
I was just watching it, and she's like, oh, it like sparks are flying, and I was like, you would die, right, if you tried to suck up 33% of a planet's energy. But
So, I need some Samus lore here. Does she have a right arm? Right arm, or is
yes,
it okay? Or is it okay? Got it.
no, so her suit is it's called a Varia suit, and it's a piece of Chozo technology, which is an ancient, now basically extinct race of like bird people.
Oh, okay.
And they had like super advanced technology, which is how she's able to like adapt. Her suit's able to adapt to different environments, and she'll find like alien technology, and it'll sort of assimilate it. But the soup and then her arm cannon are just Chozo technology, but she does have a hand under there.
Yes. Well, asterisk, it's called the power suit. The Varia suit is an upgrade.
I thought we started with the Varia suit in this game.
In this game, we do, but
Yeah,
the suit itself is called the power suit.
Well, that's true, but the power suit is like her orange with like flat shoulders, like she has in Metroid 1 starting out and Metroid Prime 2 after you lose your
No,
stuff.
just like the entire suit. It's the entire technology itself.
Okay,
Like it's upgraded and
well,
everything.
I'm still right about it being the Varia upgrade of the suit.
You're right.
So,
That part is completely right.
okay.
You're both right. Good job, guys. Proud of you.
Thanks,
Everybody.
John. Anyway, so with 33% of the planet's energy stored in your right arm, you go back to the temple grounds, which I had trouble finding because I am just terrible with directions. But you make your way back there and you go to the Great Temple, talk to Umos, and he's like, thank you. Also, I'm keeping the Luminoth in stasis until you finish.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that's what those pods are for. Cool. And then he says, here's an upgrade for your languages. Go scan the turquoise or whatever color it is and go to Torvus Bog.
Mm-hmm. And then he also mentions the Ing are going to come at you in force because now you've taken a bunch of their energy. And
to them, you're effectively an eco-terrorist at this point, so they're going to be coming at you hard.
He's like, good luck.
Eco-terrorist to an eco-terrorist.
I think
fair.
I think this comes up later, but I don't want to miss mentioning it. There's lore entries that talk about how the Luminoth are not actually like an indigenous species.
They were space nomads.
To Aether, yeah. It doesn't really explain where they came from. It just says that they were space nomads going from planet to planet, system to system. And then eventually they learn from the species on those planets, like, I don't know, the significance of having a home.
Mm-hmm.
And so they searched for a planet that they could call their own, and they eventually found Aether. and this was 5 generations ago that this happened. Granted, I think we're supposed to assume that Luminoth generations or like lifespans are longer than human lifespans, but still.
I think we can. If you scan some of the Luminoths, it'll say that they were like so many decacycles or centicycles long old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that's like 10 years, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I assume. A cycle's a year.
So 15 years when it says 1.5. Yeah.
At least years on that planet, however long that is.
Oh, true.
Yeah, that's true. The years could be longer. But yeah, we can. There is a part later where we get more into Luminoth lore. I just wanted to touch on that while we're moving forward. So we end up in Torvus Bog. So just up front before we get into the section, did you guys like Aegon Waste or Torvus Bog more as like a area?
Aegon Waste.
Yeah, I would say Aegon Waste too.
Can you all tell me why?
That's a very simple answer. This is a swamp water area, and those are two things that are meh. So they're together. So it's
water
more meh.
is low in this game.
I got lost more in this section than I did the first section, but I think in terms of the environment, I enjoyed Torvus Bog more.
It's
I
a
think
little
it
more
was-
visually interesting.
It was very aesthetically pleasing. My first 2 notes for this area are water makes it hard to jump, and the second was apparently records say that this was once a verdant and beautiful area, and now it's really sad. And
Yeah.
it's not just like a desert; it's like was once
that's the both
beautiful and
areas,
it's been
right?
messed up. I'm sorry.
That's both the areas, right? They both were lush and beautiful. One was the farmland, and I don't remember what this one was, but now the farmland's a desert, and I don't remember what this one was originally, but now it's a swamp. Or was it always
That's the
a
last thing I
bog?
heard too.
Yeah, I think it was, but it was like a a natural, beautiful, not like a deadly kind of place. But
More oasis, less swamp.
yeah.
Okay.
But it's really interesting. I must have missed whatever lore was dropped about Aegon Waste that talked about it being the farmland. I just kind of thought it was a deserty part of the planet.
Which is so funny because now that I'm thinking about it, they call that area the wastes, but they said it was farmland originally. So I'm like, how long between when that happened and now where they changed the name? Like, how much time has passed here? Because
Well-
it's literally called the wastes.
Yeah.
We found out later. We can jump to it now. There's a room with a bunch of Luminoth statues in it,
Mm-hmm.
and if you scan them, there's 4 of them. You find out they're the 4 Sentinels.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Let me just my notes.
It's like 4 or 5 generations.
So the 4th Sentinel was in charge when the Phazon meteor created Dark Aether,
Oh, so
and now Umos, who seems to be, an adult, not like a young adult, but just like an adult,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of Luminoth species, is the 5th Sentinel is in charge. So it's been at least a generation or so.
Okay.
But yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that about Aegon Waste. But yeah, we get to Torvus Bog, and like John said, this is sort of the water swamp area, and water places in video games tend to not be great.
fun.
But
They're not fan favorites for some reason.
No.
but there's something cool about them. I don't know. They work for me, even though they can be frustrating a lot of the time. Sorry, my computer's being weird. Okay. When you walk in, the very first thing that happens is there's like some pools of water, and then you jump through them, and it's like, oh, water makes you slow. Got it. And then you get to one room where there's a jump, and I didn't quite make it, and I fell in the water, and I just went
Mm-hmm.
and like just sunk to the bottom, and there's just like a whole area down there to explore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I moved extremely slowly, and it wasn't exactly fun to navigate, but it was really cool that it was hidden there.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all really don't like.
No, no, no.
Like
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry. If you were looking for input, yeah, you can't jump at all to start off, and there's these fishes that you can only hit from the front. They're heavily armored, and then the only time you can hit them is when they're swimming at you and they're opening their mouth to eat you, and you just shoot them in the face with a missile.
Boy, I hated those guys.
those
Yeah,
are
so the
scary.
water's very green and swampy, so it really fits the area. And then it shows you a power-up sitting way up on a cliff underwater. It's like, I bet you wish you could grab this. And then you can't. That's what I got.
Alright.
Does that help?
I'll be careful next time I ask for feedback about Torvus Bog. Another thing that's in the environment are there these things called sentinel crystals, and they look kind of like eyeballs. And they're basically just security cameras that Umos is using to like
Yeah.
keep an eye on things. But I didn't notice them in Aegon Waste at all, so it's kind of weird that they're only in Torvus Bog. But there's probably like a lore reason for that I didn't read.
Maybe it's the Sentinel watches over them, not specifically him. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's still just weird that there's only cameras in this area. There might be in the next area.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
We bounce back and forth between light Aether and dark Aether in Torvus Bog.
A lot.
A little, a lot more than we did in Aegon Waste. Like there was a little back and forth, but it was mostly once you're in dark Aegon Waste, you were just kind of there, and you would jump back in like maybe once or twice. But this is a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of extra portals. It's not just one main portal that gets you in and out.
This is
and they
also
do-
where you run into enemies that can phase in and out of space-time, I guess.
So,
Yeah, those guys suck still.
fun fact, whenever those spawn and you take too long to kill them, they'll just leave.
Yeah, I ended up not killing them for a very long time. I was just shooting them randomly, trying to kill them, and then they would just leave, and I'd be like,
They usually
am I doing something wrong?
So they usually spawn in pairs, and usually the rooms they're in, either you need to do something in that room that takes time, or if it's a room that you don't have to be in and you're just traversing through it, it will lock the doors, and you have to engage with them until they either leave or you get rid of them. So, but it's so funny, you know when they leave, because one, you can see the doors unlock, and two, the music changes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I'm sorry I wasn't good enough for you, and you're just going to leave, whatever.
They're like, ooh,
I was
I'm bored.
With area, when I Googled, like, what do you do against dark space pirate commandos?
You
And I
just sit there.
I found out you can do a charge shot of dark beam to them, and then hit them with a missile, and they just die.
Oh,
You hit
I
them
was-
when they're phased out, or only when they're phased in?
Only when they're phased in.
yeah.
But if you hit them with a dark beam charge shot, they'll get like encased in dark beam matter or whatever. You hit them with a missile, and they're just gone.
There you go.
Yep, so it's good to know now. Wish I knew that way earlier.
Right.
Similar to how those enemies can sort of phase in and out, there are certain pieces of the landscape or sometimes like the structures in the environment that are also kind of half phased between. They'll appear as sort of a semi-transparent object, and if you scan them, it says 50% of this objects like atoms or molecules are in dark aether, and there's also an addendum where it says like it says in dark aether or another dimension. And it's like, what do you mean by that? I don't like what that implies.
Another
Maybe-
one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that there's two, and if at the very end they're like there's a third dimension, it's like I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. I don't need the second half of the game to be like, actually, we got to get the energy from gray ether as well.
I've done enough phasing in and out with just the two. I don't need a third.
It is also
But-
kind of weird that like 50% of its matter is in dark ether, but you can
The important parts
fully
are over
interact
there.
with
Yeah.
it in dark
Yeah,
ether.
So the idea is the mechanism that makes it works in one area, and the thing that connects it to do things is in yours. So
Yeah.
it's
very convenient.
it's very it's very loose logic for dimension hopping puzzle solving.
Yeah.
Doing one thing in dark aether to solve a puzzle in light aether. And when you do, there's a really cool effect because the one that happens here is you have to rotate a bridge, and you rotate it in dark aether, and then immediately like 2 seconds lagging behind it, you can see the light version of the bridge also rotating in dark aether. So it lets you know that it happened in both worlds, and that's a cool effect, if
That's
nothing
super
else.
cool. Yeah.
After that, you get attacked by dark space pirate commandos.
Yes.
They also ran away. I don't know if it was like you with those enemies where they just got bored, or if
I think
they
that's what we
feared
were
me.
talking
That's
about.
exactly what it is. Yeah.
Oh, those guys. I'm sorry.
They just get bored and they leave. Yeah.
Gotcha.
If you
I
suck
took
too much.
that. I took that as them be like, oh, this is scary. She's too strong. We got to get out of here.
That's a good way to do it, but I didn't shoot them that much.
Yeah.
I was too busy trying to scan them, and they kept disappearing. And then halfway through that, I was like, well, what are they doing? And where are they going? And then they just left. I didn't even hardly shoot them.
They're really frustrating enemies, and they appear
Mhm.
throughout. I thought you were talking about a different. There's a lot of enemies that phase in and out of
Yeah,
existence
Fair
in this
enough,
game.
yeah.
So my bad, but at the end of this section, you get the dark visor, which lets you see. I mean, it basically just like infrared, like
Mhm.
See
objects,
that constantly.
objects that aren't actually there. And I don't
Mhm.
know if they have to necessarily be objects that are like dark objects,
I was wondering
probably.
if that was going to work on them or not.
But there's a spot where I ran into after I got the visor where they're in there. I just turned the visor on and they're just you can just see them and you can just blast. They think they're invisible. They're like refilling their ammo or whatever, and you just blast them. It's very satisfying.
It's still annoying when they hit you with that EMP. It is very much. Del- I don't know what word I'm looking for, but it throws me off whenever they
Yeah.
do that, especially with that visor. I think I
Mhm.
actually did. Now that you're mentioning it, get in a room where it locked me in with them, and and I was like, dang, I need to shut this visor off. This is very rough with the EMP.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about like the visor UI. So there's a scan visor that lets you, get extra lore, and then there's the
Mhm.
dark visor we just talked about. But the default one is called the combat visor, and it's really cool because unlike most first-person shooters, even ones like Halo where you're wearing a helmet, like I guess with Halo that you can see your health at the top and you
Mhm.
can see your weapon at the bottom, and maybe that's diegetic, and like Master Chief can also see those things. But I always just kind of read that as that's the UI for the player. But in this, it's very clear that Samus is seeing this through her visor. You can even see
Right.
like the edges of her visor where it kind of goes in at the edges of the screen. So you're like actually looking through her eyes.
Yeah.
Um, and
There's
it's
a
really cool. It has ammo and your health and a mini map, and it even has
An exclamation mark.
yeah. Yeah? John, tell us about that since you're excited about it.
It just lets you know you're taking damage.
Mhm.
That's it. That's all it does.
I,
Like from the environment.
there's
I'm
also
going through. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say there's also a really cool effect if you do a charge shot at something that's like directly in front of you. Sometimes you'll see Samus's eyes like reflect inside the screen.
I've noticed that, and the first time it happened, it kind of freaked me out. I was like, "What was that?"
Who's that?
Oh, those are my eyes.
Yeah.
They show Samus's eyes and like face a lot more in this game than they do in most Metroid games. Because I don't remember if you see her face in Prime One unless you get like the 100% super fast ending and she like takes her helmet off.
You
But in
might-
this,
Yeah, the opening cutscenes. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're fine, you're fine. But in this, like every, like you're saying, you see the reflection in the explosions, and at the very beginning of the game when she hops out of the suit, it like shows her eyes and goes around. It's not just like a glare on her visor.
Hmm.
And then the thing that gets me is when you go to save stations, she like walks up to it and it goes in the third person, and you see her, and she like maybe it's just me interpreting it, but she like lets out a sigh and her like shoulders and her posture drops
Mhm.
as if she's relaxing for a second or maybe she's exhausted. And then whenever it saves, it goes back to her face and she kind of looks up and it's just a look of here we go again, and then it zooms back in. And they really humanize her in a way that they didn't do in this series very much, and in a much more effective way than they did in games like Other M, where that was kind of the point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would. I think I have noticed in this game is well, Metroid, as opposed to Metroid Prime 1 in particular, Metroid Prime 1 is very much just like you land on a planet and you just kind of go. This game actually has more like dialogue with the Luminoth and stuff, so
Mhm.
there's a few more cutscenes where you do get a chance to see her face. So I think that is another like small difference where you can humanize. You have more opportunity to humanize her a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. There's definitely more like direct storytelling happening in this game.
Hmm.
Let me see. Uh, Super missiles, you get those. Scary fish are scary, but they blow up good.
One giant room that has 3 different locks. You have to do one at a time and circle back.
And we get to the Temple of Torvus, where we get another automated Luminoth message from Avak. And I didn't write down him telling us anything important, but he does give you the Emerald hologram translations. So there you go. Eat your heart out, Joe. Translate all that Luminoth lore. Do y'all have anything y'all want to talk about that happened before we get to Boost Guardian?
Not that I can think of, honestly. It's just teleporting in and out of to open up new areas and going underwater.
And we're kind of hand waving this away just because it's like
there's not anything like really notable to talk about, but there is a lot of running around and platforming and finding your way around.
The bulk of the game we talked about the mechanics, and I don't know, I think everything so far is very satisfying in terms of the exploration, but there's just majority of the game is we're not just like, and then I went into this room and I shot that, and then that opened this door. Like, we're not going to recount everything, but it is all...
We'd be here a long time.
Yeah. It is all happening, and I think the pacing is pretty good. Like, there's a good amount of exploration in between these boss fights.
Part of it, at least just for our conversation, is the first area of the game. We've pretty much described the gameplay loop.
That's
of
true.
How this game works. And now we've just gotten to the second one, where it is, in some sense, more of the same, but it's just a new area where you're doing more things that are kind of similar. But it's all still really fun and really good.
Yeah, it is. The navigation feels so good. I think first-person games struggle a lot with platforming. I think Metroid Prime 1 struggled quite a bit with platforming, but I haven't had much issue with this. There's one room with like rotating platforms, and that's kind of annoying. But everything else, like the space jump feels good, and all your other abilities to move around feel good. So I think this is a good game, guys. Okay.
Yeah, I think so too. It's crazy.
We get to the Boost Guardian, and it's just another Ing warrior, and it's theoretically using the Boost Ball ability. At this point in time, this was my least favorite boss that I'd fought.
Yeah, so it took me dying the first time to realize I should morph into the ball.
Yeah.
And then I got a whole different perspective of this battle. I was like, I should have just done this the whole time. I mean, it makes sense, but because the name of no, not even the name. This one's Boost Guardian. Yeah, I don't know. But as soon as I seen the vertical, I was like, this is so much easier now.
Yeah.
I think whenever I think about Metroid Prime 2, this is the boss that comes to my mind for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because it's a little bit harder. I thought it was harder, probably partially because there is no safe spot in this boss fight. You're in the dark ether, and there are no light crystals or anything to heal you.
Yeah.
I think I might have only had 3 energy tanks at this time, and when the Boost Guardian boosts into you, he does a lot of damage.
And you really have to hope that you're going to get the heals from the other little guys that spawn in there. Or
there are a lot of times where you just can't hit him either. He's just boosting all around.
Yeah, that's kind of my frustrating thing with it, because there's so many ways to design a boss fight, and one of the ways is it's the boss's turn to attack you, and it's your turn to dodge, and then it'll flip when the boss is done attacking, and that can definitely work. I just didn't feel that the boss, like, not choreographed, but like showcased what it was about to do. I can't remember that word at the moment.
That's fair.
Like it didn't have like a tell about what was about to happen. It would just suddenly I was hit because it was really fast, and and that can be fine if there are mechanics in place for your character to move quickly and in response to that. And I don't feel like at this point in the game, Samus has the ability to dodge quickly in that manner. So a lot of times it felt like, well, I'm just going to get hit 1 out of every like 3 or 4 times that he does this attack, because I'm not going to be able to react to it or dodge it. But maybe that's a skill issue. I don't know.
You didn't have the boost ball because you haven't fought the Boost Guardian.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it was a fine boss fight, John. Like you said, once I realized I needed to go to Morph Ball, it got much easier.
Right.
And those, smaller enemies being there to be fodder for health pickups, that's fine. But it also got a little annoying because
Right.
Then
Yeah.
the one time I can hit the boss, the other guys are attacking me. I'm just like, please leave me alone. I just want to be done with this boss fight.
Basically, I treat it like pinball. I basically never stop moving.
Yeah.
This is the
Uh,
boss that I have died on so far.
this is the first one. Is it the
Yes.
only one you died on?
Hmm.
So at the very beginning, we started, maybe even before we started recording, you made some kind of remark as though there was like a particular boss that was really hard.
Uh, I mentioned there was a boss that I found particularly repetitive, and it was
Okay.
not this boss.
Not this one. Okay.
This is the one that I died on.
Gotcha.
And after I beat him, after I did beat him, I was at like 20 health, and I was like, "Oh my god, please let there be health around here," because I still am not in a safe area.
After you beat Boost Guardian, you get the Boost Ball, which
Mhm.
is just a silly little name.
The best one.
And you immediately leave and use the Boost Ball to shred on a half pike or half pipe and get the temple key.
And so we
pretty
passed
sick.
by one of these earlier, and I was like, "What in the world is this?" I was worried it was gonna like attack me or like be a trap or something, and then it just ended up being a half pipe I had to come back and use. And I was like,
it
"Oh,
is.
"Okay, sure."
It's just a very literal. It's like this is just what you have in the real world, but with a sci-fi coat of paint. Have fun with it.
Yep.
Boost
Easily the
Ball,
best
thumbs
upgrade
up,
in the game.
thumbs down. Good ability, bad ability.
Easily the best one.
I've gotten used to it.
It makes travel so much better.
Okay.
I don't use it hardly, except for the half pipes. So
I use
it
for
took a
travel
little.
all the
Oh,
time.
interesting.
If I need to get from point A to point B, I'm skipping enemies and I'm boosting all the way there.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm gonna have to try that out now.
It's great.
I think it's
It's
a
also
pretty good time.
It's so much more dramatic in this game than it is in Metroid Prime 1. In Metroid Prime 1, it's just kind of highlights the morph ball. In this game, you just get covered in like flames. I don't know why they did that.
You're just a speed racer.
I guess.
So we have one of the temple keys at this point of the three that we need to get to the Dark Torvus temple.
It's hiding behind this boss, right? Eventually, you get it after doing this boss. Is that right?
Well, you defeat the boss, get the boost ball, and then you have to use the boost ball to get the key.
Right, yeah. But
Yeah.
that's what I was saying about the last area. Like the other ones, you just found around, but in this area, I think there's basically a boss before you can get every next key, like either a mini boss or whatever. It's just what I noticed when we were going through.
Yeah, I think
I
you're right.
noticed that. That's cool.
Wonder what it's
see.
going to be like in the next area.
Two bosses.
We learned that Ing is Luminoth-ish for terror, so they just named these guys Terror,
It makes sense.
which is pretty cool.
Fair.
I'm sure this happens at regular intervals and not just after wandering around without direction for too long, but I eventually got a notification that was like, find this Luminoth weapon before it's too late, or before it falls into enemy hands or something like that.
Yeah, I got one randomly in the last area,
Okay.
and I got one here too. So maybe I was lollygagging too much.
But they take you back to the temple grounds, so I feel like it's very much a, all right, you did these things, now go here, and not a, hey, you don't know where to go, so we're going to tell you.
I think both.
But you end up going to, that's fair. You end up going to the temple grounds and take an elevator to the Hall of Honored Dead. This is where we have the statues of the four previous Luminoth Sentinels. The fourth one was the Sentinel when the Phazon meteor hit. The first Sentinel was the one that brought the Luminoth to Aether. The third Sentinel apparently was not important because I didn't write anything down about him. And then the second one was not important. The third one was Umos's parent, and their name was Vmos. So there you go.
There you go.
Nepotism.
Always wins.
Eventually we get to a point where you get the Seeker launcher,
It was
and
yeah, then.
right before that there's a puzzle where you have to use the boost ball to like rotate the floor. And I admittedly never understood that puzzle, and think just got kind of lucky about clicking things into place.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time on that, and ultimately what I came up with is rotating specific colors made different parts of it light up. And so basically I just took it, at one point I had all the middle done and not the outside, and I was like, which one does the outside? And then when I did the outside one, it made all the other ones in the middle not line up. So I had to basically start from the outside and go in. So
Gotcha.
I did not think about it that hard at all. I just kept rotating until they all lit up.
Just blindly clicking. That's basically what I did.
Was not even like trying to think about it at all.
fair enough.
But we get the seeker missiles, and the seeker missiles are cool, little inconsistent. So it basically just lets you
Yes, they are.
auto target, or not auto, but you can target 5 things at a time, and then it will hit all 5 of those things at the same time. It's necessary for like opening certain doors.
And I can
But
honestly
John,
say,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I can honestly I've never used it other than on doors, because I'm just trying to think of an instance where I could be like, hey, you 5 enemies, can you hold still while I line this up on all of you and then let go of these 7 buttons I'm holding?
There's one time where it's really useful, actually, and I'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay, all right. I'm
But
excited
there were
to hear
times where I was just trying to open a door, and it uses
5 or
it's
6
5 targets. It
rockets,
uses 5 missiles, and so I would target all 5 of the missiles, and then I would shoot, and then one of them just wouldn't hit, and I would just have lost 5 missiles. And I was like, "That's a super missile. What are you doing to me right now?"
So funny enough, I ran out of missiles doing one of the doors, and I had to go back to the room before and go break some of the plants to get some missiles.
I'm watching my notes here, and I've come across a mini boss that I did not fight in my actual playthrough.
Oh, I don't have anybody until the next major boss. So, who are you?
Yeah.
Let's just shout them out. We are
Alright.
referencing the Crystal Long Plays Metroid Prime 2 Echoes.
It's the Dark Missile Trooper. Immediately after you get the Seeker missiles, and you find that shortcut that goes right back to your ship where you crash landed originally. If you go back down that
The
that
intro
hole you
area.
initially fell off in the beginning, there's a new enemy called the Dark Missile Trooper.
What does he drop?
I'm going to presume a dark missile.
Okay.
Just-
Okay.
Maybe. Maybe.
I don't believe you.
Anything.
Did you guys get the
Missile expansion? I don't
Oh,
know.
missile expansion, so just what? 5 more missiles? Okay.
Yeah.
fair
maybe
enough.
that's. I don't know.
I'll
I'm
go
gonna
back and
fight
do it then.
Yeah.
I'll take 5 more missiles.
Yeah. Always helps.
Did you guys get the dark burst?
No, I haven't.
I don't remember where it was, but you had to like go back and explore an area. Maybe after you get the grapple, which we'll talk about in a second.
Okay.
But it's basically it's basically like a super missile, but for the dark beam, and it uses a ton of dark beam ammo. It doesn't use missiles, and it shoots, and then whatever it hits, it creates like a giant like orb dark explosion,
Cool.
and it sounds really strong and really useful. But I can assure you, in practice, all it does is use up your dark energy really fast, because anything you want to damage a lot is like a boss, and most of the bosses move quick enough or have invulnerability to attacks like that. So I haven't actually found a use for it. But yeah, it's kind of neat. It's I have it written right here. It's back in Aegon Wastes.
Okay.
There's an elevator that goes between Torvus Bog and Aegon Wastes, and that'll lead you close to the room you need to go into.
I knew there was going to be something like that for each of the beam types. There was one for all of them in Metroid Prime 1, but almost none of them were necessary.
So at this point, we get another notification. This time it says that gear of like Chozo origin has been located in the sacrificial chamber. So presumably this is some of the equipment that was stolen by the Ing at the beginning of the game that you're now going to reclaim. And I have in my notes power bombs ? And I was incorrect about what it was going to be. We get to the sacrificial chamber and we end up fighting the Grapple Guardian, who is probably one of the most frustrating bosses that I've ever fought in just a game, period.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was not in any struggle of dying in this. I was not taking hardly any damage at all. However, the amount of time this boss took anyway was ridiculous. So,
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't think I got hit in this boss. I might have, but
Yeah. I got hit, but I didn't get hurt that bad. All right. But there was one thing I wanted to bring up. We haven't talked about the kind of enemy the Grapple Guardian is. It is... So in this area, we found these little dinosaur-looking guys that have 2 legs, no arms, a big head, and they have armor all over themselves except for their back. And there's a weak spot there, so you have to jump around to the side of them and hit them in the back multiple times to knock their tail off to hit the weak points. So
Perfectly fine.
Yeah, so I wanted to point out that those looked exactly like this enemy from Adventure Quest called Dinozard, and I wanted you to both take the time to look that up really quick. Because every time I see them, I can't take them seriously because they look like them, and I laugh when I see them.
Yeah, they do. They do.
And so the reason this came up is because they shoot lightning in this game, and this was an old browser-based game you could play, and so it had the jankiest like attacks for enemies, and I'm pretty sure one of them is an Electrozard, and it was blue, and it would shoot an electric. It would just put a PNG of a lightning bolt on the screen and like shoot it toward the character, and so every time these enemies shoot lightning, it makes me think of that, and I start laughing.
I want to play this game. It sounds rad.
That's awesome.
I don't know if it's still available or not. But anyway, I digress. It's a very janky game, but I'll get back to this one. But for this guy, instead of just shooting an electric beam at you, this one shoots what I'm assuming is just the grapple at you.
Yeah, I think so.
But the grapple is kind of an electric whip kind of item.
But basically, the premise of this, if you don't mind, I'll go into it.
No, go for it, dude.
So basically, there's these two pylons in the room that have an electric current running through them, and whenever you annoy this dinosaur enough, it will try to attack you, and you just line up yourself with the electric pylon, and it'll hit it, and then you can go around the side of it and hurt it from the back. And then it gets a second phase that I think it destroys the pylons. Is that right? And then you just have to strafe around it a few times and then hit it in the back. So. Mm-hmm. And then let that take 30 minutes, and then you'll realize what happened.
Pretty much.
That boss fight, it's just bad. It's just not a good boss fight. The ideas are fine, like get it to use its grapple that it stole to hurt itself, and you can stun it by shooting in the eye, but no matter how it's stunned, it doesn't stay stunned long enough for you to comfortably do anything.
Yes.
And if part of the boss fight is the puzzle of how to damage it, then, like, I did it right probably a dozen times, and I was like, I must be doing something wrong. And I, like, had to look up,
it doesn't take damage.
How do you beat this guy? And everybody's like, just do this. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm doing. I haven't hit him once. And... So part of it is because it turns around way too fast and moves really erratically. But then another part of it is that the hurt box on its like backside that you're supposed to actually be able to hit, it's so much smaller than like his model visually indicates.
Yeah, you have to be like directly behind him. If you're to the side of him at all, your beam just bounces back.
If you've noticed the design of this room, there are two pillars that stick out in the centers of the rooms to match up around the pylons. And half the time I was getting it, his butt would be toward the pillars, and you can't get behind him enough to do damage. And then it just repeats. It's very tedious.
Even in the second phase, where his like backside is kind of shattered and should have a perhaps a bigger hurt box, it's just like exposed skin. And I'm standing there pointing directly at it, firing a super missile, and it goes pew and bounces off. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I got a couple of lucky super missiles and then a lot of light beam ammo, and it just eventually died. But literally, I started this boss fight right before I had to leave to go somewhere. And I was like, I'll finish this and then like find a safe spot real quick, and I got to be out of here in like, I got like 20 minutes before I got to get ready. Plenty of time. Barely enough time. Barely. It was bad.
Yep.
All right, that's our rant about Grapple Guardian. And then brings us to our final boss for this area. There's thankfully an ammo center directly next to the boss arena, so it refills all your missiles and all your beam ammos. It's really nice. But we enter a large exposed area via elevator that's surrounded by toxic water. And on the wall in front of us is a big Deku tree face. And we scan it.
Skip a boss?
Is there another boss?
The fish boss?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
you get gravity boost. Let's talk
Did I
about
skip
gravity
like a
boost.
page?
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like looking through the walkthrough, and I was like, is it before or after this?
Yeah,
Huh. I'm sorry.
We
Yeah.
skipped an entire boss.
the guy
It
that we've
wasn't
alluded
like a
to
good
like
boss though.
three
Yeah.
times.
So anyway, we can go over that one really quick if you want. I can sum it up in like
Yeah.
a minute.
The Alpha Blarg or whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, that room I was talking about with the giant pillar that you have to go underground and do the locks every time. Well, eventually it leads to a boss, and in that room, you get whatever boost it is for that area. Is it the swimming boost? Yeah.
Gravity boost.
Yes. Sure that. And so a giant fish that I mentioned earlier, the ones that swim at you and try to attack you. Well, now there's a gianter version. And basically, you're just dodging around the whole room. Its attacks can't hit you whatsoever when it comes to the bubble attacks. So you can literally just strafe and miss all of them. And then basically, you're just lining up a shot and perfect timing to hit it as it's trying to swim at you. So
Thought
that's
this
it.
boss's perfect timing was a little too perfect. Every time I tried to launch a super missile at it, there was just such a small
This is a very
frame
small window.
where it's like charging at you and where its like hitbox opens up and before it like crashes into you. I thought that was just really annoying to like line up that actual shot.
It was, yeah.
I ended up doing charge shots for most of it.
I think I'm just better at video games than you, Joe, because I didn't highlight it in like I bolded all the bosses, but I didn't bold this one. And all I have written down is
Fish.
Alpha Bog, get pumped full of super missiles. That's all it says. So I feel like maybe you're just bad at the game because I didn't.
That's probably it, honestly.
But
So anyway, as we promised, 3 bosses,
Yeah.
3 keys.
my bad, guys.
You're good. You're good.
I also like didn't find the key after this boss until like way later. It was the first time I actually looked up a walkthrough for the game to remember where I was
It was
supposed
in
to
a
go.
stupid spot. So
It
yeah,
was in a
you're
stupid
right.
spot.
There was
It was
just
a
like
very
a
stupid
portal
spot.
that was hidden up above you or something.
And that's the
The
whole
grab-
only reason for the dark portal right there, isn't it? Is
Yeah,
just
it
for
is.
that key.
It doesn't go anywhere else unless you have power bombs until later, which we don't have. There's just a power bomb door that we can't do anything with.
I think the like justification is like, hey, you just got the gravity boost. Now you're in a room, and to get the thing you need to use the gravity boost to access the portal. But it's not telegraphed
Right.
I just
as
didn't even
well
see
as
that.
it usually is.
Yeah.
The gravity boost. Just to talk about it for a second. It's basically just, first of all, underwater your movement is normal again. You're not super slow. Your jump isn't inhibited, and you also get like a third jump that if you hold the jump button down has like a jetpack boost. But it only works underwater, which to my knowledge is not how gravity works. But Metroid has always used the word gravity to just mean
Whatever. they want.
anti-water,
Oh.
and that's always been very strange to me.
hmm
Like in Prime 1, instead of a gravity boost, you get a gravity suit, and that lets you move underwater normal. And I was like, I don't think gravity is the reason that water makes you move slowly.
The density,
Yes,
I
you-
believe, right?
Guess you need to play Metroid Other M, where they actually do use it for gravity.
Look, now's not the time. I think Metroid Other M is not a terrible game. I think that the story is not
That's
good.
such high praise.
I think that the gameplay is a fantastic blend of 2D and 3D Metroid, and should be explored in the future.
I can't say much. I played it like 3 times.
I love Metroid. I love the gameplay in Other M. Anyway, Deku Tree Face Cocoon. You scan it, and then it's like you got to shoot it with your secret missiles, and you're like, all right, I guess I'll shoot with my secret missiles. And the cocoon falls into the water, and then a larva comes out, and my jaw drops because it is the size of a whale. No, like actually, John,
Yeah.
that's what I did. It's the size of a whale, and it's just swimming, circling around you in this poison.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to let one of you talk about it for a moment.
Those
Uh,
goes.
I'll take it.
Go
So
for it, Joe.
the boss is called the Chica.
Mm-hmm.
Chica larva.
Chica larva. It is just like you said, basically a giant whale that's running around and jumping out of the poison swamp that's around you, and it's just like going belly up and then landing back down. It's also spawning out more little guys. I forget what they're called, but they're like flying poison sacks that fly towards you. And if you don't shoot them in time, they'll drop poison around you. I thought this boss was somewhat straightforward. Pretty much all it's doing is dropping waves of poison at you, but you would notice that it's called the Chica Dash Larva, and once you actually manage to kill the Chica Larva by shooting its belly whenever it's jumping into the air, it turns into
The Chica adult.
adult.
But before we
Chica
get to
adult.
the adult, which I have comments about, because of course I do.
Yeah.
The Chica larva wasn't hard to fight, but
It was
'cause
annoying.
it leaps out of the water and you can hit its belly at the right time, and then eventually it also starts just jumping onto the platform that you're on.
Yeah.
That was the only time I really did damage was then.
Yeah.
I could be mistaken about like the intricacies of the fight. It never jumped up until I hit it once when it was jumping out of the water. So you might, I don't know, you might have to hit it at least one time before it starts jumping on the platform. Because when it's on the platform, you can just take, like light beam ammo. At least that's what I did, and I just like bam, 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 just took out a ton of his health bar every time it jumped up before it could ever hurt me. But it was so hard to hit when it was jumping out of the water, even with like the tracking missiles.
I think I did more damage when it was jumping out of the water than when it was on the platform.
I only
How'd you
did
do
the
that?
damage in the platform because you would shoot it in the face and then it would jump up and it would show its stomach before it fell
Yeah.
back down. That's when I was doing damage.
What were you using to hit it, Joe? Were you using missiles or super missiles or
I was using
what?
super missiles.
That'll do it.
Really was in the air.
I just couldn't get the timing right with super missiles.
I
because
couldn't
they take
either.
so long to shoot.
I was
pretty much
holding
always
it,
start with super missiles.
but like I just couldn't hit it correctly.
Oh, this is also where I discovered that in the top left corner of the screen for the combat visor, there's a radar that shows where your enemies are. And
It's
this
very
is
helpful.
after this is after about 8 hours of me thinking it'd be really helpful if there was some kind of radar that
You
would
just
show where the
missed
enemies
it, huh?
are. Because sometimes they're flying around and they're behind you, and you're just like, I'm like waving my Wii remote around. I'm like, where are they? and then the fish, I was like, I can't keep up with where the fish is, and then I just saw, and I was like, oh, that's where the fish is, and that was very helpful.
The
So I
exact same
recommend-
radars from Metroid Prime 1.
You know, I played that whole game, and it was many years ago, so who knows what I thought then. But I
Fair
recommend
enough.
using it in Metroid Prime 2 for sure.
Yeah. Fair.
But yes, Joe, as I cut you off, we get to the Chica adult.
Anyway, you definitely totally kill it while it's a larva, and some more cocoons on the side, or one more cocoon on the side, burst open and unleashes the Chica-adult.
Is that what happens?
Based on what I just saw, yeah.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. I thought it was the same one.
I assumed it was too until I saw it just now.
Either
Again,
way, it
so
doesn't make
long
a
ways.
ton of sense. I don't know, because the larva's huge, and the adult is not. It's
Yeah.
just like kind of big.
Maybe there's a Peepa stage where it gets really thin. That we
Yeah,
missed out on.
instantly. Instantly.
Maybe so. Anyway,
Anyway, the Chica larva is like a giant. I guess it's more of a moth, or more of a wasp than a moth, because it has
the
a
adult.
big, adult. Because it has a big old stinger, 4 wings, and is flying around. And the platform that you're on also breaks into 3, and they force you to use the grapple beam, or this is how they try to shoehorn the grapple beam in.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can use the grapple beam to launch yourself to each of the other platforms that are around. Basically,
Do we-
what you're
Do we like the grapple beam? Just like real quick, does that feel good?
It's okay.
it's fine. It doesn't have
It's-
too many uses outside of like where you have to use it.
Right. Again, it's like the other thing I mentioned earlier, the homing, where you can do multiple things.
Yeah.
Like it's only good for doors or for getting to different areas. That's all it's good for.
Yeah.
Fair
The
enough.
secret missiles are similar, only useful here.
Yeah, they are. This is where you use them.
Supposedly, if you get them to work.
What? I did not think to even do that. I was doing them one at a time.
Yeah, baby.
So if you hit the Chica adult enough, it only flashes yellow, which means you're just like doing
Annoying
damage to
it.
their armor typically, or annoying it. If you do it enough, it'll get stunned, and each of its wings will have a red circle that glows on it. What you're supposed to do is the Chica adult just kind of chooses where it wants to go and faces wherever it wants. You're supposed to chase around, go to the front of it, use your seeker missiles to lock onto each of those 4 red rings, and like, I guess blow up its wings.
So what
I
I
never
was
got that.
doing was going behind it and shooting 2 missiles at each wing, one at a time, like a pro.
I never got that to work. I launched a super missile at each ring individually and did this phase 4 times every time it happened.
Yeah,
So
it only happened twice for me, though.
You did the same thing that John did, except you used 3 more missiles for each round. Because you used a super missile instead of just using 2 missiles.
Yeah, because it was just 2 regular missiles is all it took.
If you do it that way, the way you guys are doing it, it takes 4 rounds to beat all the wings. The secret missiles, like John, you were saying, you have to do 2 for each wing. You have to do 2 rounds because you hit all 4 at once. So it ends up saving a lot of time if you end up doing it that way, and it makes you feel really smart. That's my biggest achievement.
Forever. Because it also takes forever just to done. Anyway, after you blow up its wings, it falls into the poison or whatever, and if you scan it again, it becomes Dark Chica. So it gets its own lore entry. Its stinger gets very large, and that becomes what you're actually that becomes what you're actually supposed to hit.
And I just shredded that thing with the light beam.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, that's what you're supposed to do. It launches out some cheeklings, which are just more war wasps, basically.
So hold on. I'm sorry. I gotta stop this. I don't understand the physiology, the lifespan of this creature, because we have the larva, which is a whale, then we have the adult that also comes out of a cocoon. So maybe the larva came out of an egg and then it metamorphoses in a cocoon, and then the adult, okay, that's explained. Still weird that it goes from a whale to a wasp. What are cheeklings? They're not babies. And they're not like young adults, because we see it come out of the cocoon. So I just don't understand.
It is an alien interdimensional planet. It might not have the same stages of life we have here on Earth.
But when you scan the cheeklings, it says that they are, quote, Chica offspring. And I'm just like, what else you're telling me?
They go into trees. The little guys fly into trees. Hey. They can't eat or anything, so they pupate into whales. The whales live in the water, and they eat other things, and then they pupate again and crystallize and then turn into a wasp. Obviously, that's it. No other explanation.
I'm down with this theory.
I just think with how much they thought about everything else in the game, that this one thing that only bothers just me. It's like, oh, guys, what are you doing? But no, it's not a big deal at all. They're just extra fodder to replenish your ammo and health.
Yeah.
Very helpful, too. Yeah.
Yes, they are. Anyway, once you get past this phase, it does it all again. But
it stops you at the halfway mark of the health.
It sure does. Yep. This time, before it becomes Dark Chica again, it has one more attack pattern where it flies in a circle, and then it charges at you. Or vice versa.
And it makes it so easy to get it to the stun mode, though.
Yep.
And that's the whole boss fight. It's
pretty much it. Yeah. You do that again. You do that 8 times if you're me.
Or me.
Yeah.
I think
45 minutes, I swear.
I think Amorbus, the Aegon Waste boss, was a more satisfying boss fight overall. I think this one was fine. I think it was just too long.
Yeah. It's nice that your light beam charge shots home in, at least. But
do they? That's good to know.
Yes.
I thought I was just really good at aiming.
It could be both.
You probably are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It probably is mostly me. After you beat the Chica adult, you go to the Dark Torvus Energy Control Temple, which is a lot of capital nouns.
First you get the Dark Visor.
True.
And you also get the Dark Visor. That's true.
So go on.
Yeah. You use the Dark Visor to see invisible platforms that takes you to the Dark Torvus Energy Control Temple. And then after that, there's something that we didn't talk about. When you jump into the water before you get the gravity boost, Dark Samus is just like, hey, regular Samus, and then swims away, and then does not show up again for the entire area.
Yeah.
And I'm just like...
I kind of forgot about it.
I thought we were going to have like a crazy underwater boss fight, and I was really excited about it. But nope, just she's just like, hey, I'm still important to the story, and then just left.
Yeah, there's none of the energy here that Dark Samus was trying to get, right?
The Phazon.
Yeah,
Not
Phazon.
much, if any.
Yeah,
it was
so
just
that's
like
why.
arrows
And
or
there's
something.
you get some Luminoth lore that we've talked about in this area, but I guess maybe we're done with space pirates, at least for now. But we didn't learn much about space pirates. It didn't advance the space pirate and Dark Samus plot at all. It just sort of our A plot that we've been working on
Mhm.
with the Luminoth.
Mhm.
But yeah, then we have to go back to the temple grounds, go back to the Great Temple, and drop off the other
Energy.
33% of the energy that Sam's absorbed in her right arm.
I do want to quickly interject.
Yeah, please do.
After you've gotten 33% of the planet's energy shoved into your arm at this
Mhm.
point, if you go back and try to go to like the Aegon Waste or something,
Yeah.
it'll block you. There will be a shield like blocking the door, and
Yeah.
it says you cannot leave the area where the planet's energy is. You have to return it to the Light Temple.
Oh, I guess that's to keep you from trying to put it at the other one and like breaking the game. I guess
I guess.
Just
they didn't program for that.
Yeah.
they do the same thing with if you try to access the door to the next area in the temple grounds first. Because I don't remember what order you get the translations, but you have the translation you need
Yeah, I noticed that
to
when I
go
got
into
there.
it. But then you walk to the door and it's like it's being psychically blocked by, I don't know if it explicitly says if it's Umos, but it's
Yeah.
you're supposed to know that Umos is preventing you from progressing until you return to the
Mhm,
energy.
mhm.
Which again is just not a super Metroidy thing to do. It just feels kind of odd. It's not bad. It just feels odd.
Yeah. Kind of
But yeah, you go to the temple grounds. Umos is like, thanks, Samus. One more. Just one more. Super easy. In and out.
Fortress.
Go to our Sky Fortress. We call it Sanctuary. And there's also a bunch of corrupted security robots that are going to try to kill you.
By the way.
By the way, thanks for helping us out, by the way. And the reason that I'm not doing this is because
I don't have a power
you're the
suit.
protagonist.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does anyone else actually talk about why he's not trying to get the keys back?
Probably
Is
because
that
we have a
explained?
gun.
Huh?
I said probably because we have a gun.
Well, he's not
they
doing
took all
it
their
as
guns. I don't know.
we have the
I seen a
vessel to
spider
get the
right before you
energy.
got here.
Yeah, there you go.
We have the vessel to get the energy, so he
Yeah,
doesn't.
we killed the
That's
Dark
true.
Splinter.
That's
Or
true.
Dark
He's
Alpha
like, I
Splinter.
can't.
The thing.
I'm not going to kill you and take that back. So I guess you're
Yeah.
the only one. Okay.
Be rude.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Unless you guys have any extra comments, that brings us to the end of our part 1 of Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. I did want to throw out one last thing. I sent in the Discord chat the box art for the American and European version,
Mm-hmm.
which is called Metroid Prime 2 Echoes.
Mm-hmm.
But then there is also the Japanese version that I sent. And John, I don't know if you can look at it without messing up our cameras.
I can
but
look on my phone.
First
Yeah.
thing I want to point out is that the Japanese version is called Dark Echoes and not just Echoes, which I think is an odd but noteworthy change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then second, I just wanted your opinion, which has the best box art out of the two.
The English version, because it also has the guy in the Aether, or the Lumios
The
guy.
Luminoth?
Yeah, Luminoth guy in the background.
Yeah, it's got him up here. I think
Yeah.
the Japanese. Oh wait, Joe, tell me your opinion.
I don't know. I kind of like the content of the English version more. Like, there's more stuff on it that, the Lumos, and it shows the HUD of the game and everything. But the Japanese one, I think the art style of the Japanese one more. How it's kind of faded out.
Fair enough.
I think the Japanese would make a sick poster.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
I think-
It looked like a poster for a movie or something.
I think for the box art, I think the American version does it more for me. It's got the better light versus dark, and the pose is a lot more dynamic.
Actiony. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right. Well, hope you enjoyed us talking about Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. We're going to do one more recording of this where we're going to talk about everything from Sanctuary to the end of the game. Presumably it'll take about as long. So if you see this and you're like, ooh, I want to play that, and then watch the next one, I definitely do it. It's a lot of fun. But thank you for watching, Joe and John. Thank you for joining me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, see you next time. Bye.
Bye.